across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Two minutes past 6. Top of the morning, happy Saturday, one and all. Your weekend starts here. This is Talk Breakfast. They call me Mark Dolan. And breaking this morning, the US Vice President J.D. Vance blasts the UK and the government that leads it with a warning on mass immigration, saying that Britain faces, and I quote, civilizational collapse. Now, this is an extraordinary intervention from the White House, but are they right? Is this now an existential moment for Britain? Do you welcome this intervention? Or are the Americans inflaming tensions and interfering with our democracy? Meanwhile, Andy Burnham, the man who would be Prime Minister, says that pubs and farmers are unfairly taxed. He also wants to look again at the national insurance tax raid on businesses, arguing that if he was Prime Minister, he would be more business-friendly. So would the Greater Manchester Mayor be a success if he entered number 10? And what about this? The Bank of England decided that Winston Churchill was too elitist and too divisive, you heard me right, to be on our banknotes. Why do our public institutions have this attitude? Is the United Kingdom losing its national identity? Now, this morning, it's all about your opinions. My phone number is 0344 499 1000. And I'm very excited to say I've got the dream team today, because taking your calls, a brand new recruit on Talk Breakfast is Kira. Oh, my God, rising star, doesn't even go there. She'll be in charge in 4 days from now. That's the career ladder at Talk, isn't it, Ryan? As long as if you're competent and don't kill anyone, your career will be swift and upwards. So give Kira a call this morning. What do you think? Are we losing our national identity? Does Britain face civilizational collapse? 0344 499 1000. Text the word Talk in your message to 87222 or leave us a voice note. Delighted to say Ryan Thrussell is our executive producer today. We've brought him in from the weekdays just to get the level up a bit editorially. I think you'll notice that I'm slicker this morning, thanks to Ryan. Never sounded better. Matt is our lead engineer, which is a brilliant thing to have Magic Fingers Matt on the desk. And directing our TV output, the brilliant Luke. So you can hear us on the radio, DAB+, in-app and online. You can also watch the show. Head to YouTube, search Talk, and you will see me and my controversial tie. Yes or no? What do you think? Some people say it's got echoes of Harry Potter or some obscure military regiments. Make your own mind up. Head over to YouTube, search Talk. Up we pop. Give me an out of 10 for the tie, if you don't mind. Let me tell you, the show, I can see on paper already with the running order, is an 11. You heard me right. Does Britain face civilizational collapse? Are we losing our national identity? 0344 499 1000. This show belongs to you, so let's talk. And we will kick off with the front pages. Daily Express, never forget. D-Day hero Paul Terry, 100, returns to the Normandy beaches for the first time in 82 years to remember fallen colleagues who fought to save our freedoms. You see, there's an idea. You could easily put Paul Terry or any number of his colleagues on our banknotes. The reason being that in the absence of Paul Terry or his colleagues, or perhaps more importantly, Winston Churchill, we wouldn't have a United Kingdom. And those banknotes would have German words on them and swastikas and God knows what else. So I think we shouldn't forget the Second World War. And we shouldn't forget Paul Terry. And we shouldn't forget Winston Churchill. And that's why these figures have got to be on our banknotes. Well, the woke Bank of England want to have wildlife on there because, of course, there are no historic figures that we can now unite around. The public are entitled to their view, and it's my understanding they chose animals in a very democratic way. They sort of sampled a few thousand people. Fine. The people have spoken. But what about our public institutions? Why do the Bank of England see Winston Churchill as elitist and divisive? Well, he was elitist. He was the elite because he defeated Adolf Hitler, the worst monster in history. Why is someone like that divisive? I think you'll find Adolf Hitler was divisive and one of the worst murderers in the story of humanity. But somehow in this twisted world where left is right and north is south and 2 and 2 makes 5, somehow Churchill is problematic. It is, well, this is the figure, this is the singular figure that saved the West, that saved freedom, that preserved the territorial boundaries of this country. And now he's a problem, according to our own public institution, the Bank of England, who, by the way, are terrible at their job. The Bank of England are terrible at their job. Because what is their job? Their job is to control inflation. That's why they have the lever that you pull, which is interest rates. And towards the tail end of the pandemic, they allowed interest rates to stay incredibly low, which allowed inflation to ferment. They knew that once we came out of that third lockdown, economic growth was going to explode again, because if you let businesses open and start trading, then you're going to have... I know this is a bit of a strange thing to get your head around, but once you come out of a lockdown, the economy's going to become productive again. It will heat up. So everybody that had half a brain cell predicted inflation was going to come back after the pandemic, but they kept interest rates low, which is why we've had misery for millions ever since. And it's the Bank of England's job. Basically, Ryan, they had one job. It's like that meme online, isn't it? You had one job. And the one job of the Bank of England was to control inflation, and we now have it. And do you know why inflation is so wicked and so evil? Because it is a stealth tax on everyone, because it reduces the value of the money in your pocket. It reduces the value of your weekly or monthly wage, and it increases the cost of goods. It's a perfect storm, and it's very unprogressive because it's a tax on everyone, particularly the poor, who have no choice but to buy some of these goods which are subject to inflation, including energy. Because, yes, this will surprise you, but poor people get cold too. And when they switch on their radiator, they are paying a price for inflation. And in particular, net zero, yet another inflationary policy. So if you've got a government that does things that are inflationary, then that government at best doesn't care about you and at worst hates you. If I was Prime Minister, my total focus would be on 2 metrics: inflation and the employment figures, because I believe that having a job is a human right and it is virtuous. Working is moral, and it's good for the soul, and it's good for the body, and it's good for the mind, and it's good for the economy, and it's good for society. It is a virtuous circle. I would be deadly focused on the employment figures and on inflation, which is a tax on everyone except the poorest. And all that the Bank of England want to do is fanny around with meetings about banknotes, calling Winston Churchill, the man who defeated Hitler, problematic, elitist, divisive. I'm sick of this. Are you sick of this? It's wild. And I'm an Irishman myself, by the way. I'm a paddy. I'm a plastic paddy. So I don't even have skin in the game. My parents came here in the 60s. So Churchill is not part of my long-term familial history. But I understand that he is integral and central to this country, of which I'm privileged now to be a resident. It would be the same scenario if I lived in the United States and I would honour Abraham Lincoln and George Washington and the founding fathers. I would owe them a debt of gratitude if I lived in the United States and made that my home. And so I owe Churchill a debt of gratitude for this country that my family came to in the 1960s. So may God bless Paul Terry, who's 100. Never forget. What a great sentiment. The Guardian, reform is posing a threat to democracy, say Labour. How ironic that you've got a political party that says another political party is a threat to democracy. What's their solution? Shut down reform, perhaps? Defund them? Prevent them from running in constituencies? How illiberal and authoritarian is this governing party? Let's have a look at this. Reform UK is destabilising British democracy by spreading divisive material that's being amplified by bots and troll farms, Labour's deputy leader has said. Lucy Powell. What a horrendous human being Lucy Powell is. Lucy Powell, deputy leader of the party, is somebody that said, if you talk about the grooming gangs, which is one of the worst crimes in the history of this country, upwards of 250,000 young girls abused in a way that is so egregious I can't describe on a family show. 250,000 girls abused, attacked. She said, if you talk about that, it's dog whistle politics. Now, let that sink in, and we're supposed to hear the wise words of Lucy Powell. She's called for tighter laws on social media giants to tackle misinformation, arguing the online space was open to wealthy individuals and bad state actors. When she says wealthy individuals, she's talking about Elon Musk, who is trying to help us. Elon Musk is trying to help us. And it is thanks to Elon Musk and his use of the social media platform X that he owns that we had the national inquiry into the grooming gangs, because he used his massive platform to amplify that story and draw it to the public's attention. A little bit like the ITV post office drama that drew attention to the scandal of the Horizon software and one of the great miscarriages of justice in the history of this country. So Musk is trying to help. Reform are the #1 party in the country at the moment. But according to The Guardian and Labour's deputy leader, who thinks talking about the grooming gangs is dog whistle politics, reform is a threat to democracy. No political party is a threat to democracy. Clues in the name. They are a political party. So any party, whether it's Labour, the Lib Dems, whether it's the SNP, whether it's the Greens led by Captain Cleavage himself, Zach Polanski, whether it's any of those people, they are all serving democracy. I don't like Zach Polanski or Keir Starmer, but they are participating in our democracy. They are politicians. They're not a threat to our democracy. They might be a threat to the economy and to law and order and the national boundaries of this country, but they're not a threat to democracy. It's vile, isn't it? It's come to this now, that people who are public figures elected by the population are now seen as a threat. You couldn't make it up. Of course it won't work. Daily Mirror, World Cup boost. Beer we go. Britain's struggling pubs pin hopes on 3 Lions glory. Well, that's a lovely cheerleading message from the Mirror. But this is the same Mirror that campaigned for a Labour government that has clobbered pubs with an increase in business rates, that has had policies which have been inflationary, which has hurt pubs massively, has forced on pubs the minimum wage hike for young people, which means they're not hiring young folk anymore. The national insurance tax raid, which has made life a misery for them. So I don't see the point in cheerleading the pubs if you've campaigned for a government and a set of policies that have caused so much damage to pubs. And those pubs, by the way, are closing on a daily basis. And be clear that when those pubs are gone, they're gone. iWeekend, delete your emails about the King, top civil servant tells UK diplomats. The Times, Vance links teen deaths to invasion of immigrants. Daily Mail, all at sea, exclusive. Navy's £3.5 billion flagship aircraft carrier breaks down again as ministers wrangle over boost to defence spending. The Sun, ex-presenter hauled in, BBC host in sex assault probe, quizzed by cops over touching on show. What is it with these people at the Beeb? Over here at Talk, aren't we so well behaved? Old Ryan Thrussell. There's no scandal. Kevin O'Sullivan, the biggest gentleman. Sometimes I come to work in quite revealing outfits and I can see that I've caught Kevin's eye because he's a man of appetites. And I'm, you know, luckily in very good shape. And occasionally I'll come in a skimpy outfit and I'm working very closely alongside someone like Kevin O'Sullivan, and always a gentleman. I mean, I can tell how he feels, but he doesn't act on it. So this place, Talk, is beyond reproach when it comes to the conduct of our employees. But the BBC, what is going on there? It's just a knocking shop, isn't it? It's absolutely jam-packed full of wrong-uns. They just can't behave themselves. What is it? What do they put in the water over at TV Centre? And also Victoria Derbyshire, she's been rubbed over the old coals, hasn't she? She, of course, is the Newsnight presenter. The Newsnight show, by the way, never knowingly telling the truth. Do you remember how they butchered the Donald Trump speech? It wasn't just Panorama, Newsnight did it as well. And then there was the misrepresentation of Farage's remarks about Henry Novak, talking about cold white rage when he said pure cold rage. It's funny how the BBC decided to put the word white in there, implying, I think, that old Farage is some kind of white supremacist or something. It's funny how when the Beeb make a mistake, it's never a good mistake, is it? It's never a good mistake where they accidentally say that Farage is going to be a good Prime Minister or something. No, no, it's always a mistake that puts the opponents in a very bad light. So the speech edit for Trump looked worse. The accidental misquoting of Farage looked worse. The mistakes never look people on the right, make them look better. So old Victoria Derbyshire, she's been dragged over the hot coals, Ryan, because of bullying allegations. Now, let me stay on the right side of the law because I cannot be bothered to get sued by Victoria Derbyshire. I don't want to look at her grumpy face across the High Court for 3 weeks. I can't be asked. Thanks, but no thanks. With that sort of sour demeanour that she's got. But anyhow, the bottom line is that the allegations of vile bullying against Victoria Derbyshire were not upheld. But it's my understanding that BBC bosses are still going to talk to her about her tone and conduct. What's wrong with these people? Why can't they behave? Do you know what she's on? She's on just shy of 300 grand a year to read a prompter and to interview people for, like, what, 37 minutes a day, 4 nights a week? $350,000 for that? I'll do Newsnight for 100 quid. I'll double the ratings and it will be a balanced show. Now, I've spoken to the boss about this already. Denny is comfortable with this because it doesn't clash with Weekend Breakfast. A direct quote from Denny, the boss: knock yourself out. So what I'll do, and this is my offer to the BBC, I will step in. I'll do Newsnight Monday to Thursday. It's 10:30, isn't it, in the evening? It's half an hour's work. I can phone it in. I might do it from home to save the Beeb a little bit of cash. But what would happen if I took over Newsnight? I'll do it for 100 quid, and the money that I save the corporation will go to charity. And let's give it to a veterans charity that acknowledges Paul Terry, D-Day hero, 100 years of age. So take Victoria's salary and deduct £100 per show for Newsnight. And that's just, you know, I've got the bills to pay. Mrs. Dolan, she likes frocks. I can't do it for nothing. Shoes. She's a compulsive. I mean, she's like, my missus is like Peter Morrill, like female version. There's currently a rusting motorhome outside the house. I don't know how it's been paid for. So, look, folks, I've got to crack on because we're so busy. But I'll do Newsnight for 100 quid. We'll double the ratings. I'll save the BBC money, and it'll be a balanced show. The offer still stands, and the bosses have said yes, because it doesn't clash with my other commitments here. And, of course, what will happen is that the ratings will go through the roof, and I'll save the BBC. But I don't really want to do that, because I'm here not just to save Talk, but to take it from strength to strength. Folks, I've got 2 big questions for you today. Are we facing civilizational collapse, What do you think about the Americans stepping in and talking about an immigrant invasion? Is that helpful? Is it the right thing to do? Are we losing our national identity? Give Kira a call, a brand new member of the team. You're going to find out why. We've splashed the cash to get Kira in because she is good. And I might take her with me to Newsnight, actually, because I'm going to need, I need a couple of you with me. Ryan, are you around to do a bit of BBC of an evening? There you go. And Ryan will do it for £35 plus VAT. So all in, job lot, there's a couple of hundred for everyone. 03444991000. More front pages and the legendary comedian Paul Cox next.
Varlic Alakane was a 32-year-old black man. He murdered 3 white people. Not once in any part of the conversation or reporting was there any racial profiling or even the question raised.
I don't want to drag this boy onto the issues, not onto Henry, and that is something that the family have asked for.
35 years I've been doing this. I've never seen a moment when most of mainstream media and most of mainstream politics was more out of touch with the country than over this issue. Quite extraordinary.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. It is 6:25, and we've got an interesting story here. The Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, Lucy Powell, have said that reform are a threat to our democracy. Betty says, good morning, Mark. I said a year ago that they'll find a reason to blame or ban reform, while most of the MPs will be at the World Cup on freebies. UK will be like the Balkans in 5 years if this government is not arrested and tried for treason. I'll get to more of your feedback shortly. Let's have a look at some front pages. Daily Telegraph. Bank of England axed Churchill for being too elitist. And Labour got it wrong on pubs and farms, says Prime Ministerial hopeful Andy Burnham. Ex-BBC presenter hauled in the Sun newspaper front page. BBC host in sex assault probe. All at sea, say the Daily Mail. Navy's £3.5 billion flagship aircraft carrier breaks down again as ministers wrangle over boost to defence spending. And this in the Times. Vance links teens' death to invasion of migrants. This is J.D. Vance, who is the Vice President of the United States, who has blamed Henry Novak's death on the mass invasion of migrants and said it must be met with righteous anger in an explosive intervention on social media. Vance accused European elites of failing to stand against the politics of self-hatred and the mass immigration of people who despise the West. He said Henry Novak died the same way a civilization dies, abandoned, handcuffed by authorities who neither trust nor cared for him, and accused of hate crimes he did not commit. Well, Sir Keir Starmer has accused the Vice President of using Novak's murder to create further division. Let's get reaction from the broadcaster and comedian Paul Cox. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Mark.
Well, this was a clumsy intervention from JD Vance, I would humbly suggest, and what happened to Henry Novak was a horrific nightmare, but this was a British Sikh, not an illegal immigrant. So while the detail may be slightly off, I think the message is valid.
Yeah, of course. I believe the message is valid also. That you can trace it back to the overwhelming insurgence of illegal and legal immigration, because in the same way you can find links between anything. The thing is, we've created a culture because of it. Because those in power knew that this was going to cause a societal issue, they started to create all sorts of policy, of which DEI is part of, to try and make sure that it was acceptable for this to happen. And as a result, we've ended up with a police force that's entirely blind when it comes to this particular situation. Yeah. The more you learn about this situation, the more you think, how on earth did that happen? I heard the 999 call for the first time last night. I'd not heard it previously, and that was the brother making the call. And it's just quite clearly at this point, Henry Novak is dying. Yeah. And he's nonchalantly making a claim that his brother had been racially attacked. I think this is part of that wider issue, whether those are British Sikhs or not. And look, we all know this. It's kind of unfortunate it's the Sikh community, because of all the communities, that, including white communities, they're probably one of the most law-abiding. It just so happens that they're legally able to carry knives, and that has enabled this situation, which is a form of multiculturalism.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think that the sentiment is right from the White House. They're worried about the direction of travel of the country. And the State Department just 2 days ago drew attention to two-tier policing, which the Prime Minister has said is not true, that we don't have two-tier policing. Well, of course, it's not the edict, and it's not the kind of, it's not the modus operandi to have two-tier policing, but two-tier policing we have. We've seen it a million times. We saw it with Novak, we've seen it with Axel Rudiker-Barner. Concerns about this young man were flagged by his former head teacher. She was accused of racially profiling him. That's two-tier, isn't it? The Manchester Arena bomber wasn't stopped because of fear of being called racist. That's two-tier, because you're treating someone differently based on skin colour. Then, of course, you've got the grooming gangs. Well, this is many tens of thousands of people who were able to commit crimes with impunity because of their skin colour. All of that's two-tier.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, I don't know at this point whether they're just thick or lying to us. Now, I suspect right now our listeners and viewers are screaming at the screen going, it's just lies, it's just lies. And some of it is. Keir Starmer, I believe, is lying. This is a man that is not stupid, no matter how he acts. You know, he's got himself to the top of his UK barrister career. Yeah. And he's now leading our country, which is, you know, a huge shame. We should take lesson from this. Human rights lawyers should be nowhere near power. And the last thing that human rights lawyers care about is human rights for everyone. They care about the human rights for those they can make the most money out of, which happens to be the minorities. Of course it is. Against who? Because it's always against. And when you talk about minorities and multiculturalism, it's always juxtaposition against something. What are you talking about? Multiculturalism against what? Who are the cultures that are new, and who are the cultures that are incumbent? And when it comes to two-tier policing, you know, why aren't you treating everybody the same?
Most definitely. And when you discuss and raise the issue of the failure of our multicultural experiment, because we have a very successful multi-ethnic society, but the idea of multiculturalism, which contains within it no expectation of integration, is failing. It's provably failing. We've seen it with the weekly so-called peace marches. We've seen it with the Maccabi Tel Aviv football debacle in Birmingham. The list goes on. But if you raise these issues and talk about the problems of the country and the things that aren't working, if you draw attention to the consequences, as you've said, of mass illegal and legal immigration, you are accused by our Prime Minister of stoking division and being divisive. But all you're really doing is saying what you see.
Well, yeah, it's a bit like accusing a cancer doctor of continually pointing out the worst, because that's exactly
it's divisive to do an X-ray and find a lump.
Yeah,
isn't
look, so you know their whole job is to try and detect and save people from this disease. And what we're finding now is there's a whole group of politicians that have turned themselves into these cancer doctors. Now, I'm not saying that all people that have migrated to the country are cancer, but I am saying some of them are. And that's the problem. You know, people are afraid to have the honest discussion. What are we trying to protect here? Because it feels like what we're trying to protect is the culture of those invading. We're not trying to protect the culture of those incumbents. And just saying these words, look, it's 2026, I'm saying this now, you and I are having an adult discussion about this. It's not going to get me in a tremendous amount of trouble. In fact, it's going to be widely supported. The problem is, for the last 10 or 20 years, to have this discussion would have been utterly taboo. Would have had to have it in the corner of a dark room. And that's why it's been able to sort of fester and grow into this massive issue that we've got, because we're unable to point out what the problem is. And if you don't admit what the problem is, like with everything else in life, you end up in this situation.
And I think they're not being honest. And I had a bit of a eureka moment, a bit of a penny drop moment just last week. And it was the Mandelson files, because for me, the story of that publishing of 1,000 new documents was actually not about Peter Mandelson. Did you notice the most recent drop of Mandelson material didn't really implicate the guy at the heart of it? The story from the latest cache of files was about the number 10 operation, which is in a state of disarray, about Starmer's lack of leadership, but about the fact that you've got government ministers that privately don't agree with government policy. So it was Pat McFadden, who hitherto has been a kind of Starmer stalwart, a loyalist of the Starmer cause. And he said, all my meetings are about who can we tax to give welfare to others.
Yep.
Now, that was an amazing admission, because it's what we all think. And it's actually what he thinks, and he's at the heart of government. I've got no doubt that the same ministers feel the same way about the problem of mass immigration.
Yeah, well, it's a duplicity.
They know it's a problem, Paul.
We know that...
You said it right. They're not stupid, but they're not being honest.
They're not being honest at all. In fact, even further than that, they're gaslighting us all, because they know what the truth is, but they're not going to say it.
They know.
And why are they not going to say it? Because it saves their bacon. This is entirely a self-preservation exercise. Every single cabinet minister that stands behind Keir Starmer right now is lying A to us and B to themselves. They're not standing themselves in any good stead for future careers, because their future careers, by the way, are well outside of government. There isn't anybody that's within this cabinet now that's going to be associated in top-tier politics in 2-3 years'
Forget
time.
about it.
It's over for them. So if you were going to employ them, you're going, well, if I want someone to lie for me, these are the people. But if I want someone to tell my, the people within my business the truth, the hard truth about what we need to do to improve, then I don't want them anywhere near my business.
Coming up, Henry Novak's weapons-obsessed killer filmed brandishing gun in shocking video 3 years before he murdered a teen. Meanwhile, Labour's deputy leader says that Reform UK are, wait for it, a threat to democracy. 6:35, this is Talk Breakfast.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Is Britain facing civilizational collapse? Do you welcome an intervention from the White House over the consequences of mass immigration? Or are they interfering with our democracy? 0344 499 1000. Front pages of the papers, The Times. J.D. Vance, US Vice President, links teen's death to invasion of migrants. iWeekend, delete your emails about the King, top civil servant tells UK diplomats. And Daily Mirror, World Cup boost. Beer we go, Britain's struggling pubs pin hopes on Three Lions glory. With me live in the studio is the one and only, the fantastic Paul Cox. Paul, can we talk about the fact that Henry Novak's killer was weapons obsessed and was filmed brandishing a gun in a shocking video 3 years before he murdered the teen? How many times have we heard about missed opportunities when it comes to dead Brits?
Well, every time we see this type of situation, which unfortunately is now becoming increasingly more regular, the backstory is always the same.
Yeah.
They are obsessed in something in some way that is anti the safety of our wider community, and the people closest to them are aware of it and aren't doing anything because they want to protect their family member. And now that could be, you and I could argue that we might do the same for our children, but I think it's much deeper than that. I think it's cultural. I think if my daughter was brandishing weapons such as knives and guns, or, you know, making bombs in her bedroom or something, first thing I'd do is have a chat with her and say, this is, you know, could you do it quieter? Because I'm trying to sleep downstairs. Also,
that
I'd say,
machete, really,
yes, I'd be worried. If you know what the teenagers are like, I'd be worried if my daughter had a machete, for my own safety, let alone anybody else's. But, you know, all joking aside, you'd think to yourself, we need to do something about this. We have a responsibility, and that seems to be missing every time.
And you know something, your daughter, I think that teardrop tattoo really suits her, and she's a great girl. Shame they misspelt love and hate on her knuckles, but listen,
you know, we make mistakes.
It was a cheap parlour. What are you going to do? 6:39, Talk Breakfast. Anne is in Gwynedd. Hello, Anne.
Good morning.
Anne, you are live on air with Paul Cox. Welcome to Talk. How are you this morning, my love?
Oh, I'm fighting fit and raring to go this morning.
Well, I'm so glad. I need you to fight fit, because I need you to fight for this country.
I've had more tea than you this morning, I tell you.
Oh my goodness. Well, listen. I'm glad you're caffeinated and ready to go. Do you welcome the input, the opinion of the White House about Britain?
Yes, because I've been sitting here cooking and I'm doing my maths. The average British family can afford 2 children. We're talking average. The average certain nationality immigrant, young men who come in, they're going to get married and they're going to have 4 or 5 children because that is their culture. So in 20 years' time, those children are going to get married and they're going to have 4 or 5 children, and the British, white British, are probably going to have 2. If you do the maths, what Vance says is true.
Well, I think, Anne, it's interesting that you've crunched the numbers, and it doesn't take a genius to work out where this finishes.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's your pet word. It's common sense. But the government don't seem to have any, do they?
Well, I know, and that's exactly right. And what do you make of the tone of the Vice President's remarks? Because I can read exactly what he said, if you like. He said that European elites are failing to stand up against the politics of self-hatred and the mass immigration of people who despise the West. He said Henry Novak died the same way a civilization dies, abandoned, handcuffed by authorities who neither trust nor cared for him, and accused of hate crimes he did not commit. Is he gone over the top there?
No, I don't think so. I think he's been given quite a lot of licence, because other American senators or whatever, they've never been given so much power as this current vice president. And I think he's concerned And he's in a position that he can say, now, you can shut your ears and your eyes and say, oh, no, 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 no. But in 20, 30 years' time, are they going to stand up and say, we're very, very sorry, we made a mistake? Well, they won't say a mistake, but they'll say, you know, lessons will be learned. Well, it's too late then, isn't it?
I don't know about you, Anne. I'm sick of lessons being learned. I'm sick of the hand-wringing. I'm actually sick of the thoughts and prayers.
I think it's nauseating and nobody believes it. And they're that busy blaming other people. It's about, they're like children in a playground. I'm sorry, I despise a lot of them. I really do.
What makes you use such strong language, Anne?
Pardon?
What makes you use such strong language? Despise is a big word.
But I was under the impression that when you became a Member of Parliament, you did it for the good of the country. They seem to be doing it for the good of a wage packet. I'm sorry. That's my belief.
Well, Anne, that's a very heartfelt message that you sent. I really appreciate you calling in. Paul Cox, your reaction to what Anne has said there, that there's very much a sense that those who govern us are working against our own interests.
Yeah, and you could hear in Anne's voice that she's genuinely concerned as well. There's no apathy there, which I'm pleased to hear about, because Anne genuinely cares.
Correct.
I think the minute we get to a point as a nation where we are apathetic about this issue,
I know,
then we are in a huge amount of problem. The thing is, I still can't figure out why they're doing it. Even if this is your politics, even if this is the way you think to stay in power, why would you want to do it? Why would you want to live in a country where it's ruled by someone like you who doesn't care for it? And we keep finding ourselves in the same situation. Anne talked about people of particular cultures having larger families. Oh my goodness, what a crazy thing to say. It's absolutely true, though, isn't it?
And that's called a conspiracy theory.
It's not, though, is it?
The numbers don't lie, do they?
That's the trouble. It's not. So if eventually there's a critical mass that builds and it tips over and the equilibrium's gone. And people think, well, that's absolutely mad. I look around my perfectly leafy white neighbourhood and I can't see any of this problem going on. And they, then they go and vote Lib Dem because there's nothing to worry them.
I think actually all policymakers should live in Bradford.
Yeah. Yeah, why not?
Just off you go.
Yeah,
either that or perhaps just build some migrant hotels right next door to where they live.
You take them out. This should be...
Because you love it. You love all of this stuff.
This should be a reality TV.
You love the open borders, so why didn't you live with it?
A reality TV show where we take people out of leafy Surrey and drop them into some metropolitan, cosmopolitan, multicultural hellhole and say, try living your life now, buddy.
Enjoy it with your luxury beliefs. Anne, thank you for a fantastic call. We will catch up soon. Go and have a lovely Saturday. What do you think, folks? The White House have intervened on this issue, speaking out about the horrific murder of Henry Novak. And the Vice President, J.D. Vance, who is likely going to be the next President of the United States, has warned the UK of civilizational collapse. Has he gone too far or is he right? Are we losing our national identity? 6:45, this is Talk Breakfast.
Varda Kalakane was a 32-year-old black man. He murdered 3 white people. Not once in any part of the conversation or reporting was there any racial profiling or even the question raised.
I don't want to drag this boy onto the issues, not onto Henry, and that is something that the family have asked for.
35 years I've been doing this. I've never seen a moment when most of mainstream media and most of mainstream politics was more out of touch with the country than over this issue. Quite extraordinary.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Are the White House right that Britain faces civilizational collapse? Let's take a voice note from Judy, if we can. We love the voice notes, by the way. 0344 499 1000. Judy, take it away.
I think they're trying to do away with all that's British and everything we stand for. They're teaching them in schools all different things, that in the past we were all bad people. If we're all that bad, why is half the world rushing to come and live here? I think we should stop all immigration, command the schools to learn proper history about Queen Elizabeth I, etc., and Queen Elizabeth II, and just look at us in a better light. We might have had a shady past, but which country hasn't? Every country's had a shady past, even Germany. But these left-wing people are just trying to ruin this country.
Even Germany, or dare I say it, Judy, especially Germany. And I think our past is largely glorious. What have we exported to the world? Representative parliamentary democracy, open markets, the Industrial Revolution, infrastructure in the third world, you know, a judicial system that's been copied across not just tens but hundreds of nations on the planet. I think our contribution, our footprint is superior. Plus, we gave the world the Beatles, J.K. Rowling, Shakespeare, and my personal favourite, Elton John. Mike, here's a voice note from Mike. Take it away, Mike.
Every crime has a statutory definition, and absolutely no crime definition differentiates between colour, race or religion. The law is equal to all, but unfortunately it is not applied to all in the same way. The governments are throwing their own spin on it, and that I find abhorrent.
Well said. Right. Well, listen, what do you make of all of that? Two brilliant voice notes, Paul Cox.
Yeah, again, look, these every single person we've spoken to this morning and heard from this morning has a legitimate concern. Unfortunately, up until this point, it's been easily dismissed by those in power, particularly the progressive left-wing element of our power, because they're just saying, no, that's bigoted, that's wrong, that's right, whatever word it took. Look, the one thing that's happened here is we've seen probably the most successful propagandic campaign in modern Western history, because we've systematically convinced ourselves that Britain and its history has a terrible, terrible past that we must be embarrassed by and ashamed of, and at exactly the same time that everybody else that was fictitiously a victim of this past should be held in the highest possible regard, irrespective of whether they were or weren't, and therefore the ancestors of those victims are held in high regard, and you and I, because of the way we look, are held in lower regard, and that's the society's built in that way now, and that's where you get two-tier from.
It's so wrong, isn't it? Speaking of so wrong, by the way, Ryan has been spitting feathers about this. Have you seen this wild attack on Winston Churchill from no less than the Bank of England? Another so-called great public institution that, in my view, have completely failed because one of their big jobs is to control inflation. How's that working out for you? But what about this headline? Bank axed Churchill for being too elitist and potentially divisive. It's just a Black Mirror episode, isn't it? You couldn't make it up.
Well, no, you couldn't. I mean, elitist. This guy saved essentially the world from its greatest modern tyranny. You know, we have our freedom today, much thanks to Winston Churchill. I think we can allow him a little bit of elitism. And of course he was elitist. He was from the aristocracy. The way he conducted himself was very elite. Well, what's the division he's sowing, by the way? What are they asking for? Are they saying that, in this case, the victim were the Nazis? Because it feels as if they are. It feels as if they're saying that... And by the way, again, we have this sort of propagandic mission where we go... We dig out, we do this archaeology on absolutely everything Winston Churchill thought and said in the 19th century, make the comparison...
Which was a politically incorrect era.
Well, at that time
they weren't very woke in the 19th century.
They weren't, no. And we make the... Well, the paradigm is 2026. By the way, everything... By the 2020... But if we use the paradigm of the 2020s, everything's going to look wrong. Because the whole paradigm is set up to make everything look wrong, to justify the actions that we're seeing. They're in so deep now, they can't control the direction of travel, so all they can do is say, by the way, it was terrible, look at where we're going, it's going to be absolutely fine, because that was terrible. So they are a victim of their own success, and it's this huge propagandic success where they've managed to convince huge swathes of the British public that everything their ancestors did was wrong.
It's a sick joke to fell a statue, for example, of Winston Churchill or to remove him from a banknote. That would be akin to felling a statue of Nelson Mandela in South Africa. I mean, it's literally the equivalent. Yeah. But would that ever happen? Good luck with that.
I saw a tweet from Alex Phillips of this parish.
Of course.
She
doesn't mess around, does she?
The wonderful Alex Phillips. And she was saying no great nation takes off their great leaders off the banknotes and replaces it with animals. You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it in India with Mahatma Gandhi or whatever. You wouldn't. It just would not be done. You celebrate your past. Everybody who's held in high regard from the past has a history that you can point at and go, well, that was a little bit shady.
You celebrate your heroes. So the Brits have Churchill on their banknotes, the Americans have George Washington, the Germans have David Hasselhoff, and I think that critically we must have human beings on the banknotes. But here's the quote for you that's going to make literally your teeth fall out with anger. Research commissioned by the Bank of England concluded that Churchill, Alan Turing, who of course was the maths genius that also helped us win the war, and Jane Austen, who knew her way around a sentence, were contentious and not representative of the UK's cultural and natural diversity. So old Austin, Turing and Churchill don't tick boxes.
Alan Turing, the guy that had to hide his sexuality for years, and when it was discovered, essentially drove him to suicide. Alan Turing, you know, the first LGBTQ plus nonsense advocate.
What it is he ticks boxes, but not enough boxes.
Well, so because he's a white British man who had an association with the winning of the Second World War, and you can't help but
winning the Second World War was a bit colonialist.
Well, yeah, you can't help but think a lot of these people wish we'd lost it. But what other conclusion can you reach than the best thing would have been is that the dastardly Turing and Churchill had lost the war, and what we would have got is the ever progressive Adolf. I mean, he was progressive. He progressed all the way from Germany out towards France and Spain. Well, they were already fascists. We didn't need to worry about that.
Good point.
Out into France, and that's incredibly progressive. So perhaps you and I are wrong. Perhaps it's old Adolf that had it all right, and we should listen to people like Starmer and Chums and fall behind.
And some would accuse you of going out on a limb or getting carried away or exaggerating, except that this very week we had a statistic that 1 in 4 young people consider October the 7th and Hamas's actions to have been justified. Now, this was the single worst attack on Jews since the Second World War. So if you talk about, you know, the woke left picking the wrong side or possibly, you know, rewriting history and liking Hitler, it's not actually that extreme anymore.
And it's very easy now. It's even easier to propagandise. I'm going to keep using this word. Propagandise the youth of our society today through social media than there ever was in a time before now. I've got a 16-year-old, and I know that she gets a lot of her information from TikTok and Snapchat. I've seen what they've said about the type of media space that we work in. It's very easily done. Look at this, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. There's no wonder, if you know very little about what's going on in the Middle East, and you are continually told that the people that are marching in London every week are striving for peace across the world, and therefore that all that Hamas were doing was trying to seek peace on October the 7th, 2023. You can easily buy into it. Why would you look any further?
Oh, no, well, Hamas are essentially avenging historic colonial crimes from the white supremacist Israel regime. That's really the narrative.
Yeah,
because they see Jews as white adjacent, so they're part of the evil gang.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because for many years, if you talk to Jewish friends and family, they will tell you that they weren't seen as white. That, our friend who just mentioned, Adolf, great Adolf,
yeah,
who obviously, and I can say this without any fear, people like Keir Starmer admire. They absolutely love him, Mark.
Is that right?
Yeah. He never saw the Jews as white. Famously, he never saw the Jews as white. And, you wouldn't have Israel in its form today if it hadn't been for the Nazis. So what do we want here? What's right and what's wrong? I think I know what's right, and it's very obvious. You don't have to read too much history to figure out what's right. But everything's warped. Everything's like, it's bizarro world. It's like that episode of Seinfeld where everything was completely the opposite to what it was every day, and everybody just bought into it. This is where we find ourselves now, and what we've got is a whole, collective of youth that are willing to swallow it. I probably would have swallowed it if I'd been 16, or if this had been the mid-90s. I might, if Oasis had been talking about Israel in a negative way, I probably would have drunk the Kool-Aid too.
I know, because that's what happens if you brainwash people. Who would you put on the banknotes?
I think the people we've got on the banknotes are already incredibly
Churchill
impressive.
deserves probably another 100 years on those notes.
Why wouldn't you have him on there?
Maybe,
I don't mind the badger.
Is it a bit like Harry Kane with the England team, which is first name on the team sheet? Is Churchill.
Yeah, what exactly? Who else?
You don't mind a badger?
I don't mind it. Well,
No.
Famously, I've said this many a time. I don't mind a badger.
Do you like
squirrel.
beaver? Are you into beaver?
I am constantly searching. I rarely see the beaver. But do you know what? Every time I do, I am delighted.
Well, it's because you're a city dweller, of course, so you don't get much beaver action. But, I mean, this is such a compromise, isn't it, the animals? And it just shows where we've come, that essentially there are no human beings around whom we can unite. The reason why, by the way, is because all of our great figures from history are white men. Yeah. And that's too awkward for the woke progressives.
Well, you also know that if they put a cat on the banknotes, the mice community are going to have a lot to say. And I see this as the future. 2028, you and I are sat here and we're saying, but the mice representatives have a point, Paul.
Too right. Do you welcome the intervention of the White House? Is Britain facing civilizational collapse? More to come.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 7, top of the morning. Mark Dolan, Talk Breakfast. And a very happy Saturday, one and all. Your weekend starts here. Lovely to have your company. What is going on? What are you up to? Are you getting the kids ready for their swimming lessons? Bit of a big night last night, was it? Or perhaps you're at the tail end of a work shift, in which case I salute your contribution to the unstoppable powerhouse that is the great British economy. And breaking this morning, the US Vice President J.D. Vance blasts the UK government with a warning on mass immigration, saying Britain faces civilizational collapse. Is he right? Now, this is an extraordinary low point in the special relationship. But is the White House right to intervene? Is this an existential moment for Britain? Meanwhile, Andy Burnham, the man who would be Prime Minister, says that pubs and farmers are taxed unfairly. Did the Greater Manchester Mayor make a good point there? Would he be a good Prime Minister, do you think? And the Bank of England have decided that Winston Churchill was too elitist and too divisive to be on our banknotes. Why do our public institutions have this attitude? Is Britain losing its national identity? And what do you make of this intervention from the White House? Are we facing civilizational collapse in the aftermath of the Henry Novak murder? Or do you agree with the government that this is whipping up division? I need to know your thoughts. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Rory and Kira are taking your calls. Are the White House right that we are facing civilizational collapse? Are we losing our national identity? Have we lost Britain, the country we once knew? Text the word talk in your message to 87222 or leave us a voice note. We love us a voice note. Now, you can hear us on the radio, DAB Plus in app and online. You can also watch the show. Head to YouTube, search Talking Up We Pop. The brilliant Luke is directing our TV output. Luke, why don't you give the camera a bit of a wobble for us? There you go, look at that. That doesn't make you seasick, nothing will. There's a lot of controversy about my tie. What do you think? Is it a yes or no? Just see what I'm wearing. Don't worry, I am wearing something. Head over to YouTube, search Talking Up We Pop. The brilliant Ryan Thrussell is our executive producer today. The man's a double threat, good looks and brain power. Magic Fingers himself, Matthew, is our lead engineer. And taking your calls, the brilliant Rory and Kira. It's all happening. We've got the dream team. Let's talk. And we'll kick off with the front pages, and I have the Times newspaper. J.D. Vance links teen's death to invasion of migrants. The US Vice President has blamed Henry Novak's death on the mass invasion of migrants and said it must be met with righteous anger in an explosive intervention on social media. J.D. Vance accused European elites of failing to stand against the politics of self-hatred and the mass immigration of people who despise the West. He said that Henry Novak died the same way a civilization dies, abandoned, handcuffed by authorities who neither trust nor cared for him, and accused for hate crimes he did not commit. Now, the Prime Minister has said that this language is creating further division. So what do you think? What is your response to this intervention? Live in the studio, broadcaster and comedian Paul Cox. Good morning, Paul.
Hello there, Mark.
Great to see you. Well, this is unprecedented for the White House to call out the UK in this way. The years of Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan on the world stage feel like a distant memory.
God, don't they just? Look, this is an intervention, no two ways about it. If you look at our allies as family members, why wouldn't they? They do care. I think this is a genuine sign that they do care. Look, we know that all these, I mean, it's creating division, politicising. Of course, it's politicised. I know it's a comparison that has been made all week, but George Floyd, 16 days after George Floyd passed away, Angela Rayner and Keir Starmer are kneeling on the floor of Labour headquarters. For what? Why is that any different to what happened to Henry Novak?
And after George Floyd, we were told to be angry and we were told there must be change. Why can't we be angry about Henry Novak? Why can't we have change now?
And all exceptions as well, because everyone forgets, I don't think they do forget, but some people forget that this was during 2020, 2021. When everybody was locked down, we weren't allowed to go out. Had drones following you around if you walk your dog for longer than 17 minutes. And all of a sudden, everybody's allowed to gather and kneel and do whatever they like. So it was...
You're so right about that.
So the complete duplicity once again, two-tier once again. Look, it's not nice to have someone like J.D. Vance from America telling us that we're doing it wrong. Of course we don't like that. We're a great country, or at least we were. We're this sleeping lion now, and hopefully it's going to wake up very soon. But it's not going to wake up if we don't have someone like J.D. Vance pointing out to us, look, can you not see what's happening? And all the while Keir Starmer is saying, don't look at him, he's sowing division, then we're going to remain in this position. There has to be this great washout of what we've got in terms of politics.
I think washout is exactly the right expression. Let's take a voice note on another story. Now, this is absolutely wild, folks. It's 7:09 on a Saturday morning. The Bank of England axed Churchill for being too elitist. Now, this is another public institution that seems to hate the United Kingdom. So it's an institution which belongs to this country. It is literally called the Bank of England, and the Bank of England hates England because they've effectively cancelled Winston Churchill, a man that saved this country and saved the free world. But according to bank officials, old Churchill is a little elitist, a bit of an old white man, and of course divisive too. Make it make sense. Here's a voice note on that from Jay.
Just getting back to the point about the Churchill face being on the Bank of England notes, it doesn't make sense. The left scream Nazi scum off our streets to the centrists and the rights, okay? They scream that. Churchill was the man that defeated the Nazi scum, the real Nazi scum. But they're all very pro defacing his statue and ripping him down. He's a racist, he's horrible. They're siding with him in one song they're singing. It doesn't make sense. It's like there's no common sense whatsoever, is there?
Well, listen, a great voice note. Who would you replace Churchill with on the £5 note? Let me know. Wrong answers only, please. My nominations, Angela Rayner, Big Ange. It would be very nice for her on a £5 note, because what you would have is all the different properties that she's lived in around her, which would be a great thing, and the free AirPods, that would be quite good. Maybe because you've got sort of banknotes, it's a kind of mathematical, maybe Diane Abbott would be quite nice. She's the £5 note with Diane Abbott would be an £11.50 note, wouldn't it? It would be the wrong currency. What do you think? Who is your option, Paul Cox, for the £5 note?
I'd like to see one of Zach Polanski's successful customers on every banknote.
That would make the £5 note very popular, wouldn't it?
It would, yes. I do like the idea that there was a man out there who now he's obviously dedicating himself to absolutely ridiculous politics, but he used to do great work, Mark, enlarging the boobs of the UK, which is something both you and I have championed in the past.
Well, I have considered, and we've got a bid in for Zach Polanski to come on the show, on Talk Breakfast, and what we're going to do, I'll obviously quiz him about his Green Party policies and all the rest of it, but we're going to have a sample female in the studio at the same time, and a qualified physician will measure her at the beginning of the interview and then at the end, and we'll see where we are.
Look, that's science, and I think this is what the public deserve.
Yes. Mrs. Dolan made a visit, actually.
Did she?
Yeah. It was a last-minute intervention, a final roll of the dice for the marriage. Unsuccessful.
It's a shame, but, you know, you've got to try these things, haven't you?
You mostly do. I tell you something, I mean, if we didn't laugh, we would cry, because I think that is the bottom line about this story. Winston Churchill, a true icon, and he can't go on the banknote. The issue we've got, Paul, is that all of our great figures from history are predominantly white men. So what are you going to do?
Yeah,
that is our story, isn't it?
Yeah,
you can't make the past diverse.
The first question you've got to ask is, what's wrong with that? And then when you get whatever answer it is, dismiss it immediately and put them in the loony bin. What we have to understand is all of our institutions are led by people that are handpicked by people in high power.
Yeah.
So as a result, you end up with people running the Bank of England who, of course, are completely standing behind this nonsense. And as a result, they don't see any issue. This is why we're going to end up with badgers everywhere.
Most definitely. I mean, it's inevitable, isn't it? I cannot believe it's going to be wildlife now. It's truly, truly shocking. What about this from Suze? Good morning, Mark. I wish J.D. Vance, the Vice President, was our PM. I'm sick of being lied to. As for the despicable Lucy Powell, who has said that Reform UK are a threat to democracy, she deserves nothing but contempt. Diversity, equity and inclusion is the driver of division, and this useless lying government is on its death throes. It needs to be put out of its misery. Someone here has messaged the show. Mike Martin has said, please support my e-petition to keep Churchill on UK banknotes. Interesting stuff. Good morning, Mark. We need to remember all those far-right thugs, I think he's speaking with his tongue in his cheek here, who 82 years ago today stormed the beaches. Remember, your day at the beach is brought to you by their day at the beach. Heroes, every one of them. Dave, thank you for that. Of course, that relates to the front page of the excellent Express newspaper. Never forget, D-Day hero Paul Terry, 100, returns to the Normandy beaches for the first time in 82 years to remember fallen colleagues who fought to save our freedoms. Maria is in Gloucestershire. Good morning, Maria.
Good morning, Mark. How are you, mate?
I'm very well. Lovely to have you on. And what do you make of this story? Lucy Powell is the deputy leader of the Labour Party. This is the same Lucy Powell that said if you talk about the grooming gangs, that's dog whistle politics. She's now calling reform a threat to democracy.
It makes me laugh. Threat to democracy. What about Starmer with his reactions, the way he deals with things? As to, you know, like last year when those poor girls were murdered. And what did he do? He called everybody far-right thugs, changed everything that, you know, poor people were being in riots, they were being arrested, they were put in prison. What is democracy? What democracy do we have? What are we working with? I have no idea. I don't know who I should be thinking about. Looking towards...
Maria, how can another elected politician be a threat to democracy? That makes no sense whatsoever.
It makes no bloody sense. And you know what makes me laugh? They haven't mentioned the fact that, oh dear, yesterday, Reform UK secured its first unitary authority councillor in Cumbria, in the borough of Furness.
Good point.
Yeah, and it took Labour and Conservative out. But they don't mention that. All they keep bloody going on about is how bad Reform is, how bad Nigel is, what he said, which he didn't say. They are getting on my bloody nerves, to be honest, and I'm sorry I'm swearing.
No, Mary, you're entitled to be angry. Let's have a look at the headline, Paul Cox. The Guardian, Reform is posing a threat to democracy. Reform UK is destabilising British democracy by spreading divisive material that's being amplified by bots and troll farms. According to Labour's deputy leader, Lucy Powell called for tighter laws on social media giants to tackle misinformation, arguing the online space was open to wealthy individuals and bad state actors. Now, what the hell is misinformation when it's at home?
Well, of course, it's all very Orwellian. It's misinformation is information that political leaders and parties do not want you to hear, largely. There is obviously some malicious misinformation out there sometimes, you know, from both sides of the political spectrum. Let's have that out and say that that's true to some degree. But on the whole, what they are referring to is people talking about the type of things that are happening in the UK that they are refused to manage, have made happen and are refusing to do anything about. And as a result, they hate hearing it. And the problem is with social media is that everybody has access to it. This isn't like the news where people can control it. This is social media where anybody, you and I, can stand up, sit down, whatever, and say what we believe and point out what we've noticed. And they can't control it.
Most definitely. And Maria, can I ask for your reaction to the remarks of the Vice President of America, J.D. Vance, saying that Britain faces civilizational collapse?
Well, we are. We're already in civilizational collapse, aren't we? Let's be fair.
So true.
What makes you say that, Maria?
Because everything I look at, everywhere you talk, you go to, it's all gone. It's all gone. You're not getting anything. You're getting high taxes, high council tax. You can't get roads fixed. You can't get this. You can't get that. People are just so fed up. What is our civilization now? We used to be proud people that wanted to get up and go to work. Now all they want to do is say that they are mentally hurt, they're mentally ill. They want to stay at home. They don't want to do anything. We've lost our civilization. We've lost everything. It's horrible. This country. I'm 74 years old, and you know what? I pray every night when I go to bed that I don't wake up in the morning anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. Civilization. What are we living towards? We're not living towards anything. We've got no pride.
No pride.
Where's the bloody pride in our country?
Is that reflected in the Bank of England getting rid of Winston Churchill from our banknotes?
I can't even go there with that. What the hell is? What are you? Without Winston Churchill, we wouldn't even be talking now. We might not have liked everything he said, because, well, we do that now anyway, don't we? But we might not have liked everything we said, but that man was right in what he said, and he got us out of a lot of trouble. And I feel proud that he is somebody that I can look towards. I can look at his statue. We don't know who to look towards now. Who do we look towards? Who do we look towards, really? I mean,
I think maybe the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. We look towards him, maybe.
Oh, you must be joking.
Carol Vorderman, does she unite us? Maybe. I think Gary Lineker is the new Churchill for me.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what.
And Gary, what's that idiot called from Manchester United? Gary Neville. Yeah.
Gary Neville.
Yeah, these are the new Winston Churchills for me. And Diane Abbott.
The person who is the new Winston Churchill to me is Nigel Farage. He's the only man that I've heard get on and say it as it is, and he does say it truthfully. Look what BBC tried to do to him the other day. They just sat there, all they want to do is drag that man down. He hasn't just given up and said, sorry, I ain't doing it. Why do I need to go through this crap every day? All the lies you keep making about me, all the lies you keep telling about me. Be honest, I'm being honest, and he's right in what he says. We have got to do something with this country. Our policing is gone. We haven't got policing. Where do you see a policeman? You have a break-in, you ring a police officer, right? You wait you can wait 2 days before they even come back to you. Yeah, you have a car crash. They just say, oh, well, sorry about that, mate. I'll give you a number. You'll have to get in contact with your insurance company, but we can't come out, even though there's somebody who's rammed them in deliberately. What life have we got? You tell me.
Maria, an incredible call. I'm so glad you called, my darling. And I want you to call me again soon, because we love your input, because you speak from the heart. And Maria, you've seen and lived through a country that was once proud, as you said. What do we unite around now? Nothing. Our local Nando's, if you're lucky. Paul Cox, final thoughts. Maria there, not pulling her punches.
No, and I'm ever so glad that Maria's prayers didn't come true and she did wake up this morning. And please don't pray that way again, Maria. I'm very glad that you did wake up this morning, because that was a fantastic call. It's heartbreaking, actually, to hear that. And often I'll be having these debates with younger people in their 20s and early 30s, who, unlike Maria, don't have a comparison. They were born in this century or at the end of the last century, so have no idea, like you and I do, that there was a time before where things were different. And I can understand sometimes why they think, well, this is the way things are going. Why would you want to go back to the past? But when the past is so much more favourable than the present or what the future looks like, then why wouldn't we use it as the right comparison? Look, Maria, I was moved by Maria's call there. We're only allowed 6 bloodies an hour, so unfortunately I can't say anymore because Maria used them all up, but what a way to use them.
Most definitely. It was so fantastic to have you with us today, Paul. I know you've got a gig tonight and you've got your YouTube channel, Paul Cox Comedy.
That's right. Please come and join me there.
Do check it out. You're busiest man in comedy and media. We look forward to seeing you really soon. The legend that is Paul Cox. Sean says, Mark, J.D. Vance, the US president, is 100% correct. Apart from a couple of sensible countries like Poland and Hungary, Europe will be an Islamist Muslim continent well before the end of this century. I'm glad I will be long gone. Folks, do you welcome the White House's intervention here? Is Britain facing civilizational collapse? Churchill off the banknotes. Are we losing our national identity? 0344 499 1000. Give us a call. Book your place on the show. This is Talk.
Varda Kalakane was a 32-year-old black man. He murdered 3 white people. Not once in any part of the conversation or reporting was there any racial profiling or even the question raised.
I don't want to drag this boy onto the issues, not onto Henry, and that is something that the family have asked for.
35 years I've been doing this. I've never seen a moment when most of mainstream media and most of mainstream politics was more out of touch with the country than over this issue. Quite extraordinary.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk. It is 7:25, a very busy couple of hours to come, including Dolan's dispatch at 9 a.m, in which I'll be responding to the remarks of the US Vice President, J.D. Vance, who has said Britain faces civilizational collapse. Let's get reaction now from the brilliant broadcaster and political commentator, Philip Kisley. Hello, Philip.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
Really good. I'm very well. Do you welcome this intervention from the White House? Number 10 are saying it's divisive and whipping up tension.
Number 10 say everything is divisive and whipping up tension when everything isn't divisive and whipping up tension. The only thing that is divisive and whips up tension is number 10. We're in a situation where, we live in a sectarian, balkanized society. We're riven with identity politics. We've had mass immigration for the last 30 years. We have a crisis with Islamism and anti-Semitism. It isn't the White House that is causing trouble here. It's the policy of not just this government, but successive governments throughout the whole of the century. We are in a mess, and it's just really concerning that it has to take the White House, that it has to take foreign intervention to really push this home to the government. But even that is not going to do any good. We had the awful, terrible murder of that boy, Henry Novak. And he was a boy. He was 18 years old. And yet what happens, Mark? It's always the same thing. This terrible thing happens. There is an outrage about it. It goes all over the media. It goes all over the headlines. And yet somehow the political class and the heritage media try to remove the perpetrator from the narrative. They place Nigel Farage front and centre, and then all of a sudden, everything is exactly the same. Nothing changes. The narrative continues. So we do need intervention, and it's just a shame that we have to have foreign intervention because our government and our ruling classes are so useless.
Well, Philip, the progressive left don't want us to talk about the consequences of Britain's open border experiment, do they? And that is arguably an abusive dynamic, because when you're being abused and you say, look, stop hurting me, then the abuser attacks you and says, this isn't happening, you're gaslit. Then they attack you, they're the victim. That's what the left are doing to the British people, isn't it?
That's what's been happening, Mark, over the last 30 years. We have been gaslit. We have been told, we see the evidence before our eyes.
To paraphrase Tucker Carlson, shut up, racist.
Exactly. If you point out that you are being abused, if you describe the situation, if you say that, as a country, we are hurting and we are scared, we are frightened, we are angry, then we are bigots. It's classic stuff. This is what happens when there is a march through the institutions. This is what happens when the institutions are captured. This is what happens when ideology runs riot. And what happens, what's happened over the last 30 years is we have people within the institutions running the institutions. And I'm thinking particularly about education here, Mark. And as you know, my background is in education. I spent 25 years in the universities. But I can tell you this, Mark, we have people running the institutions who hate us, hate Britain, and particularly, and this is a really important thing, right? They hate the white working class. This is rooted in class hatred. And I didn't realize how deep and complex this hatred was until Brexit. Actually, that really kind of opened my eyes, because the vitriol pointed at us was just something incredible. And then all of the activism that happened on the back of that just reinforced that contempt. They hate us, Mark. It's as simple as that.
Well, it's a shocking thing. And the detail of J.D. Vance's post, I'm curious what you think. I'm going to read you his full remarks right now. Henry Novak died the same way a civilization dies, abandoned, handcuffed by authorities who neither trusted nor cared for him, and accused of hate crimes he did not commit. His murder is as tragic as it is enraging. He should still be alive today, and he would be if the last few generations of European elites had stood their ground against the politics of self-hatred and the mass invasion of migrants, many of whom despise the West and the people who love it. Has he gone too far? What do you make of the tone of those remarks?
I don't think he's gone too far, because I think if you are going to address a problem, you have to identify it. You have to articulate it. And the problem we've had over the last 30 years is we have not even been allowed to talk about the problem, to mention it. I mean, you can point to so many specific examples. Henry is just it's awful to say, it's terrible to say, but he is the latest tragedy. You only have to look at places like Rochdale and Oldham and Rotherham to see other tragedies played out. People weren't allowed to say what was happening. There was a value judgment taking place, and that was, well, we must allow white working class girls to be abused and raped by Pakistani men because of racism, because of cultural sensitivities. It's better to allow that than to be called racist.
The selective moral blindness, of the progressive left, who are both moral and not moral all at the same time, depending on the interest group at the heart of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, Douglas Murray used to call this kind of stuff brute politics, and that's what it is. And the progressive left just dress this stuff up in virtue, but it's actually the opposite of virtue. I think what we really need to do is address the fact that we are beyond crisis at the moment, and we need to be able to agree on that simple thing. If we are to do anything about this, if we are to save ourselves, okay, I think we do need to at least use the appropriate language. And what's happening from Number 10 and what's happening with the political class is that they are refusing to acknowledge the situation. You know, when there was unrest in Southampton during the week, you know, they used that, you know, they weaponized that, and they said, oh, these people are dividing us, these people are sowing division. No, the division's already there. That's the whole point. Identity politics, this obsession with race in the institutions, in the forces, in the Church of England, my God. You know, this obsession with race has robbed people of their humanity, and those police officers on that awful footage, I'm just thinking about it now as I'm talking about it, that terrible footage where that boy died alone. Yeah. Okay. He was just treated with contempt and he died alone. And the last words he heard were his rights. The fact that we have an ideology, a set of values, an ethos that allows for that, Mark, is a shame to the nation. It's a shame to us all. And it must be our biggest priority because, as you can see, it's killing us. It's killing our children. And one further thing, Mark, that's the police. I've talked about the institutions quite a lot, and it is about the institutions. Fundamentally, it's about education. It's about schools and universities. We need to tear up the model and start again because simply it is not working.
You're absolutely right. And when the Prime Minister and the progressive left talk about division, well, I think you'll find so-called anti-racism is division because that's based on skin colour and the persecution of white people. But then you've also got policies which have created division, and that would be the failed multicultural experiment, which has within it and at its heart, no expectation of integration. In fact, people coming are told, do not integrate because your culture is more important and supersedes that of the United Kingdom. Before I let you go, you're many things, broadcaster, writer, academic, you're a historian as well, Philip. The Bank of England have axed Churchill from the £5 note for being too elitist and divisive. Research commissioned by the bank concluded that figures such as Winston Churchill, Alan Turing and Jane Austen were contentious and not representative of the UK's cultural and natural diversity. May God give me strength.
It's just difficult to, if Winston Churchill is divisive, the one person who brought us together to win our existential struggle in 1945, then quite frankly, they are stupid. I think what we need to do is just ignore this narrative, ignore the fact that they are, you know, talking so stupidly. But what they are doing, Mark, is they are tearing up our culture. They are obliterating, expunging our culture, removing our past, removing our heritage. This is Soviet-style propaganda that we are being faced with time and time again. And as I say, we need to push back. We need to have the ideas. We need to be able to speak about it. We need the vocabulary, and we just need to say no, Mark.
Absolutely right. Phil, we're asking our audience today, who would you replace Churchill with on the £5 note? Wrong answers only. So far, I'm suggesting Gary Lineker, Diane Abbott.
Oh, I was going to say Diane Abbobet.
Well, yeah, it would be a £5.25 note, wouldn't it? Because it couldn't be mathematically accurate. Carol Vorderman, I think, could go on there. You obviously need a lot of ink, especially for her backside. I don't care if you're calling me sexist. Happy days. The other people I would look at, Mr. Blobby, because he's an intellectual genius. Rosa from Yorkshire has said, "Hi, Mark, I would have important modern-day symbols on our banknotes. Dinghies, vapes, knives, the burqa, and a man in a dress." Not bad. Any suggestions for a wrong public figure on a fiver, Philip?
Well, I mean, I was going to say the person who came into mind was obviously Diane Abbott. But I mean, if we're bringing people together and we're not being divisive, Jeremy Corbyn, how about that? Yeah, you know, something like that.
Philip, you've nailed it with Corbyn. I think that is a humdinger because, of course, the woke left would love it. We love having you on the show, Philip. Thank you so much for joining us early on a Saturday morning. You're a legend. We'll catch up soon. Have a great weekend. My thanks there to Philip Kisley, who is a brilliant broadcaster. New Culture, the New Culture Forum, of course, which is a brilliant platform. Let's take a voice note from Phil, if we can.
Where does this lunacy end? I mean, where do we go from here? I mean, are we now going to stop? Are we going to take off the crown from stamps or from police uniforms and fire uniforms and the post office boxes? I mean, what should we have on there? Nothing, or a weed or a dandelion or something. I mean, it's just ludicrous, madness. And yes, J.D. Vance is totally correct. We are on the brink.
On the brink, I think that's a very well put phrase. Phil, thank you for that. Keep those voice notes coming. Do you welcome the intervention of the White House saying that Britain faces civilizational collapse? Is JD Vance right about that? Are we losing our national identity? Churchill off the banknotes. The list goes on. Let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You're listening to Talk Breakfast. It is 7:41. The Bank of England consider Winston Churchill to be too problematic to go on the £5 note. The Bank of England concluded that figures such as Churchill, Alan Turing and Jane Austen were contentious and not representative of the UK's cultural and natural diversity. So there you go, folks. A great public institution cancels Winston Churchill. Make it make sense. Let's speak to former Met Police detective and also ex-military hero as well, Mike Neville. Good morning, Mike.
I don't know if I'm a hero, Mark, but do you know, just on your last caller where he said what they're going to do, remove the crowns off the police uniforms, they've actually done that in Northern Ireland. So you can see these things happen while people just don't know they don't realise they're happening. It's happening already. In plain sight. Graham, Mike, has said, good morning, Mark. On the new banknotes, it's the left wokists who want to change the notes. They are the fascists, so why don't we have Hitler and Mussolini on the notes? People are actually angry about this, and the reason why is because our banknotes are symbolic. They are. They paint a picture of the nation. You go abroad and you look at the banknotes and the stamps and you see some interesting characters of who's helped that country, who's done a certain thing in that country, and obviously the locals will be proud of those people. But to replace it with fish and butterflies, it just seems utter nonsense. And of course, the people who they've consulted with, of course, have just given them the answers that they want. It's lazy consultation. They go to Brighton University and then they wonder why they've got all these results. No, that's what they'll have done. Most definitely. I mean, the awkward fact is that the key figures from our history are middle-aged white men. I didn't write the history books. That's just what happened. That's what history is, Mike. But we're too ashamed of our past now to have it represented by the people that were the great actors of our time. And the reason why is because they don't tick boxes. We had, of course, Florence Nightingale on a £10 note, I seem to remember being old enough. But, of course, she's been usurped by Mary Seacole, who wasn't really a nurse at all. But all this nonsense, it just plays into the left's way of trying to globalise the place, trying to get rid of any pride in our nation, and it's just nonsense. So we've got to stand up to it. We most definitely do. Speaking of standing up, well, the US Vice President has stood up to Sir Keir Starmer with the following post on X, Mike. Henry Novak died the same way a civilization dies. Abandoned, handcuffed by authorities who neither trusted nor cared for him. And accused of hate crimes he did not commit. His murder is as tragic as it is enraging. He should still be alive today, and he would be if the last few generations of European elites had stood their ground against the policies of self-hatred and the mass invasion of migrants. Your reaction? Well, I think it's a real tragedy. We've got to look to the American Vice President for some level of common sense. And you've also got in that article Keir Starmer accusing the Vice President of interfering in our democracy. But yet this is still the same Keir Starmer who, when George Floyd died, stood up in the Commons and asked the Prime Minister, then Boris Johnson, to speak to President Trump about it. So it's just the hypocrisy of the left here. They never stop. They never sleep with this sort of stuff. Sleep. They simply say what will appeal to their woke mates without actually thinking, do you know what? Somebody's control through Facebook or Twitter or something and find all these quotes where they've said the same things. They've been angered about George Floyd's death and rage about it. And then when somebody says it on something that they're not interested in, of course, it is literally an outrage. And Europe is in a complete mess. If you go, I went to Germany after the sex attacks there in Cologne. I was tasked to go and help the German police after there was mass sex attacks by alleged asylum seekers. And of course, the authorities there had spent 3 days not investigating it, trying to cover it up until all these girls came forward who've been wickedly assaulted. So Sweden's just as bad. Brussels in Belgium, absolutely awful. And you look at the riots in Paris. This is a real big problem, and J.D. Vance is right to highlight it. Most definitely. Do you think, however, he's wrong to conflate illegal immigration with high levels of legal immigration? Because he refers to the mass invasion of migrants. Well, of course,
this Sikh person that killed Henry Novak was a British citizen. So were there issues there with the veracity and accuracy of his post?
I think his post is he's just doing a widespread comment. Yes, I was surprised that a Sikh was involved in the murder. I've never dealt with a Sikh in a law enforcement scenario, neither as a victim or a suspect. And so it's very unusual for Sikhs to do anything like that. But you cannot argue there's been a link to immigration of whatever kind and the rise in crime. And the one stat that always stands out to me is the fact that in 1951, there was 150 robberies reported in the whole year in London. There are probably that many every day now. And you only have to look at the newspapers. The BBC got rid of Crime Watch, I think, because of it, because when you see the faces of the criminals, too often they don't look like British-born people, and it's a real tragedy.
Most definitely. Alison has said, good morning, Mark. We are in free fall as a civilization, and we will keep falling over the edge of the cliff face if we keep placing our hands over our eyes and pretending it's not happening. I think many people have been doing this, and now it's getting serious and crucial, and people are realising that what with Henry's murder, let's say it as it is, there are definitely only barely a handful of more times to react. Sad but true. I'll get to more of your thoughts and your calls next in the company of former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. 7:47 Talk Breakfast.
Vardy Callicane was a 32-year-old black man. He murdered 3 white people. Not once in any part of the conversation or reporting was there any racial profiling or even the question raised.
I don't want to drag this boy onto the issues, not onto Henry, and that is something that the family have asked for.
35 years I've been doing this. I've never seen a moment when most of mainstream media and most of mainstream politics was more out of touch with the country than over this issue. Quite extraordinary.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Do you welcome the intervention of the White House and the Vice President of the United States? Is Britain facing civilizational collapse? Are we losing our national identity? Robert, you're in London and you're live with Mike Neville, former Met Police detective. How are you, sir?
I'm good, gents. I called in because this week I had a very interesting experience. I was in a really sort of posh, swanky Mayfair club, which normally is these people don't. Well, they're not subject to the madness of government policy.
They're in a lovely bubble, aren't they?
They're in a massive bubble. But as I was walking through the anteroom off the bar, there was someone just said, he was talking to someone, he said, "You just can't trust the police anymore." And there was a spontaneous discussion, about 10 people in the room, strangers, right? We had a discussion, and everyone recognised their son in that video and what could happen to their son or to them. This guy was dragged across the gravel like a slab of meat. I know we've watched it, but it's easy to forget. As he's dragged across the gravel like a slab of meat, he can hear, he's begging for mercy, he's begging for help. He can hear the police officers standing around chatting to his attackers.
In a friendly manner, saying, "Oh yeah, we've got to check him. Sorry, mate, we've got to check him for stab wounds. It's just procedure."
Exactly. And in a final epic troll, right? They put a knee on his back. They put the cuffs on in his back, which is filling with blood. His lungs are there, and they read him his rights, and his consciousness ebbs away. And so, of course, we will have cold, pure rage, because that could happen to us. What are we paying for? We know that this is institutional and it's affecting all the Bank of England you're talking about this morning. It affects the schools. It affects the civil service. It affects all our institutions. We pay for it through the nose. And I think that Farage and people like that, when he says we've got to be careful because if you lose the confidence in the police and all the institutions, you do end up with civil unrest. That is how civil unrest starts, because people aren't treated equally. And we know that it's a Fabian Marxist playbook. Marxists divide and set groups and identities against each other. The cat's out the bag. We've woken up to, 25 years ago, Fabianism was, the emblem of Fabianism was a wolf in sheep's clothing. That was actually physically their logo, right? We cannot allow this to carry on. We can't. And I think we're heading in the right direction. I'm upset because I've always respected the police, but they're not police officers anymore. Police officer gathers evidence, doesn't he, and gives it to CPS. They are little Marxist foot soldiers. They're useful idiots.
And they are activists. Robert, what a fantastic call. I don't think we've spoken before. I'd love you to call me again soon. Your reaction, Mike, you know a lot about this as a former Met Police detective and the culture of policing. Robert says they're not coppers anymore. They are basically political activists.
It's tragic, isn't it? I spoke at a reform meeting. They asked me to speak about policing, and this is in Stoke-on-Trent. You've got loads of families there and veterans and the like. And I asked who supported the police. There must have been 100 people there, and no one did. And you think 20 years ago, what would the answer have been when you've got locals from Southampton stood outside Southampton Central Police Station shouting "shame on you" to the police? Would that have happened 10, 20 years ago? No, it certainly wouldn't have happened. And it saddens me because British policing used to be in the envy of the world. And it's not really these junior officers at the bottom who are to blame. If you think they've been brainwashed through school and then university, because you don't go to like a military style establishment like I did to be in the police. You go to university, which is very left leaning. And then the senior officers set these agendas, they write these race action plans. It comes from the top, the government, the Home Office, and was just as bad really during the Tories. And so it is just sad to see. And I always mention, I feel sorry for all those hard-working officers, and we saw that survey of Hampshire officers who felt afraid to speak out. They attend these courses. If you dare to speak out, your name goes on a list and you'll be called in. What have you been saying? So most of them just keep their mouths shut, and some of them, though, who are ambitious, of course, will actively seek promotion on these policies.
Absolutely right. David's in Gloucestershire. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Mike. How is everybody?
We're very, very good. I mean, the government's job is to protect us. That's not happening at the moment, is it?
No, it's not. And I actually, the reason I just said before, I was just sat there in the bed this morning talking to my wife, and I just went, do you know what? Is it not that the evils keep on bleating on? It's the legal duty of the government to protect the people and its country. Well, they're failing. So they keep on about lawfare, and they love all that. Well, why can't we sue them? Why don't we get a class action and sue this government for failing to protect us, failing to defend us, failing to do all they can to look after this country? I mean, that defence spending money that they've now put on hold, 18 billion is peanuts anyway, quite frankly. It should be 180 billion, quite frankly, and we all know that. You know, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous that they are absolutely leaving this country open to attack.
Most definitely. And the issue we've got, isn't it, Mike, is the culture of policing. Yes, we can talk about resources, the numbers of officers on the beat, etc., but it's what they're being taught at college. Those officers that mishandled the Novak case were doing their job.
Yeah, they've been basically told that's the way of it. They're told, you know, if you turn up an incident and somebody alleges racism, it is racist. We used to be, before the Macpherson inquiry in '93, we lived in a country where things were based on facts and evidence. Somebody's been racist to me, right, what have they done? Oh, you have to produce some details of, or recording, or some evidence of what they've done. Then after the Macpherson report, it came, if you perceive it to be racist, so I could perceive that you're being racist to me. And if I perceive it, then it is what it is. So that's the triumph of feelings over facts. And this is the real problem in our society, this left-wing drive to that feelings over facts. And we need to get back to a fair and just society where the police act without fear or favour, whatever the colour of your skin, whatever your sexuality, whether you're male or female. We need that to go back to that, and we need it in the courts. We saw last year, didn't we, an attempt to make sentencing based on race. So if you're a young black man, you receive less sentence than a young white man because when you've committed exactly the same crime. Yeah. That just simply cannot be right. What kind of country do we want to live in?
Well, I agree with you. And I'm going to say something contentious, Michael, which is that we can both agree, we can all agree, racism is the most evil, wicked thing. It's a stain on humanity, by the way. It's not exclusive to white people, it turns out. But is it really the job's police to tackle racism? Because I think what they should do is tackle stabbings, violent offences, burglary, car theft, muggings, rape, that sort of thing. Is it really a copper's job to make the world a better place? I'm not sure it is.
Yeah, it's not. And we saw, didn't we? We saw the Merseyside police several years ago with them driving around with a big sign saying being offensive is an offence. And then they had to take it down because being offensive isn't an offence, you know. So, you know, being anti-Semitic, I'm a big supporter of the Jewish community, but if somebody wants to sit in their house and read stupid books like Mein Kampf, then that's their business, and as long as they don't do anything about it, let them get on with their stupid ways. But it's when and it's not as though the police have solved every robbery, every burglary, every rape.
Right.
It's not as though they've got time on their hands. At the current rate, they're solving 1% of thefts, 5% of burglaries, 6% of stranger rapes. Unbelievable given the technology and the DNA that we have in this world. When they're solving 99% of all those crimes, then perhaps they can move on to, you know, looking into me and you to see if we told a horrible joke in the pub.
I know.
We haven't got to that point yet. And let them get to that point before they start doing that.
Mike, what is it about the left? What happens with the left?
Well, they never sleep, do they? Their plan is they are determined. Well, that's what we've got to learn. If you look at the right at the moment, I've just seen the cartoon in the Telegraph where you've got Kemi Badenoch, you've got Nigel Farage, and you've got Rupert Lowe, all pointing a gun at each other, while Andy Burnham sneaks through and gets in.
See? He's got it right. They don't sleep. Mike, brilliant job. We'll catch up soon. This is Talk Breakfast.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Shall we do this? Engineer Matthew's shaking his head. 3 minutes past 8, top of the morning. This is Talk Breakfast. Happy Saturday, one and all. Your weekend starts here. Mark Dolan with you for a big 2 hours. Dolan's dispatch coming at 9 a.m. I'll be responding to the remarks of the Vice President of the United States. And I won't be pulling my punches. At 9 a.m. today, Dolan's dispatch might get me cancelled. Good. So what's the story? Well, breaking this morning, the US Vice President J.D. Vance has blasted the UK government with a warning that mass immigration is causing Britain to face civilizational collapse. Now, this is an extraordinary low point in the special relationship. But are the White House right to intervene? Is this now an existential moment for Britain? Meanwhile, Andy Burnham, the man who would be Prime Minister, says that pubs and farmers are being taxed unfairly. Would the Greater Manchester Mayor be a better Prime Minister than the one we've got? Could he be a success? Could he turn this around? Meanwhile, the Bank of England have decided that Winston Churchill was too elitist and too divisive to be on our banknotes. This is the Bank of England we're talking about here. Why do our public institutions have this attitude? Is Britain losing its national identity? And are the White House right? Does Britain now face civilizational collapse? Or is the Prime Minister right when he says that figures like Elon Musk and the US administration are stirring up hatred and creating division? What say you? You decide. 0344 499 1000. Rory and Kira are taking your calls. Matthew is pressing the buttons, our executive producer, the brilliant and wonderful Ryan Thrussell, and directing our TV output is Luke number 2. We've got double Luke today. Luke squared. He's number 1, apparently. Of course he is. So if you want to see the show and take a look at my controversial tie, which is not for everyone, head to YouTube, search Talk, up we pop. You'll be able to see Dolan's dispatch and my amazing guests. Is Britain facing civilizational decline? Do you welcome the White House pointing out that Britain's going down the toilet? Or should they mind their own business? 0344 499 1000. Calls, voice notes. Let's talk. I'm glad I left. We'll get to more of your feedback in just a moment, but let's start with the front pages, and we have a look at the Daily Mail here. All at sea. What about this? If ever there was an example of broken Britain, exclusive, Navy's £3.5 billion flagship aircraft carrier breaks down again as ministers wrangle over boost to defence spending. Listen, we spend about £62 billion a year on defence. We should be spending circa 150. You heard me right, because at the end of the day, military spending is probably the greatest priority for any government. Why? Because it's our survival. And it's, by the way, not just Russian drones and Iranian missiles I'm talking about. It's espionage. It is cyber warfare. 62 billion is what we spend at the moment. Starmer is kicking this into the long grass. This is why you need a growing economy, so that you can pay for defence. And if I was Prime Minister, I'd be aiming for 150. I would aim for 150. Spend as much on defence as the NHS. And if I was Prime Minister, no kidding, you would be a whole lot safer. How would I do it? How would I pay for that? Well, the Dolan plan is very comfortably costed. How will I pay for 150 billion on defence? I will bring taxes down so that companies can make money, employ people, invest, and then pay their taxes. So that's how you do it. I'd create a business-friendly environment. Then you'd have national income and that's how you pay for defence. The other thing I would do is cut welfare so it's there for people that need it and deserve it, and not for those who are having a bad day with a bit of stress and anxiety. I've got stress and anxiety! And so have you, living in this absolute joke of a country. Give me strength. iWeekend. Delete your emails about the king, top civil servant tells UK diplomats. I'm not happy about these politicians and diplomats and civil servants deleting their WhatsApps. I think it's dodgy. I don't think you should be allowed to delete your messages if you're a public figure. I've got a few friends that have got the deleting messages. I find it strange. I find it creepy. I'll stand by my messages. I don't delete anything. I'm proud of every word. The Daily Star who thought he was just so lucky, very sad. Anthony Head, who's a wonderful actor, and he was in the Nescafe Gold Blend commercials, and he was also in Buffy. A wonderful guy, a lovely actor. Anthony Head has passed. He was also in Ted Lasso, a real talent, and to all intents and purposes, from what I've heard, a really lovely guy. So Anthony Head, may he rest in peace. I'm not going to throw that newspaper because that would be rude. Daily Telegraph, bank axed Churchill for being too elitist. This is the Bank of England. You couldn't believe this. Figures like Turing and Jane Austen replaced by animals after being seen as divisive. Listen to this quote. Research commissioned by the Bank of England concluded that figures such as Churchill, Alan Turing and Jane Austen were contentious and not representative of the UK's cultural and natural diversity. This is the problem that the woke left have, is that the great figures from our history, I'm afraid, were mostly white and male. Tough luck. Suck it up. That's why this country is great. We have the legacy of Jane Austen and William Shakespeare and Churchill and Alan Turing. It is the legacy that they bestowed upon us. I'll tell you who I can add to that legacy, and it's a wonderful man called Paul Terry, D-Day hero. He's 100, and the headline in the Express, D-Day hero Paul Terry, 100, returns to the Normandy beaches for the first time in 82 years to remember fallen colleagues who fought to save our freedoms. With me live in the studio is potentially my favourite political commentator, the wonderful Matthew Goodwin Freeman. Hello.
That's very kind of you. Thank you so much.
Well, it's because you're on point. You don't take any nonsense. Where to start? Maybe we'll start with the Vice President of the United States, because this is a very powerful man. He may be the next president of the United States. Has he gone too far talking about civilizational collapse?
The thing is that America has managed to do something which we in the UK wish we could do, which is control our borders, right? America has done that under the Trump administration straight away. Now, what I don't think was right is J.D. Vance to link the death of Henry Novak to that in that tweet. It's nothing to do
because
with
the man
mass
that
migration.
killed Henry was not an illegal immigrant.
It's nothing to do with mass migration, this murder. And also, it's nothing to do with Sikhism as well. And we're starting to get reports that Sikhs in Southampton are not feeling safe to go out
Which is
anymore as a
deeply
result.
wrong, because Sikhs are disproportionately underrepresented in violent crime.
This murder was down to a sick, vile individual who had an obsession with weapons. The Sun have reported that there are videos from 3-4 years ago of him playing with air rifles and air guns in his garden. This is a murder by a sick individual who just so happened that Henry Novak crossed his path on that night. We will never know what the confrontation was that started it, and he murdered that poor young man. And he was only just 18 as well. It's a boy, it's someone's child. But this is nothing to do with religion. It is nothing to do with Sikhism. It is nothing to do with mass migration. So I think looking at J.D. Vance's tweet, he was making the point about how Henry Novak had been treated poorly by the police. We all agree that there's an investigation going on. But then he went on to link about this is the decline of the West, what we're seeing in Europe as a result of mass migration, and so on. And I just think it was a poor link. You can make that point. He's made that point multiple times.
If it was about the man that killed the woman, was it Rhiannon White?
Yes.
The woman that worked
who
at
was
a migrant
an
hotel.
illegal migrant in a migrant
This is
hotel.
a guy with a screwdriver that attacks her and kills her. Shouldn't have been in the country. That's an invasion, and on that, Vance would have been spot on.
And that's where I think, again, how it gets communicated from here in the UK to America, details and crucial information gets lost. That's the problem. But look, at the end of the day...
Doesn't matter, does it, actually?
JD Vance...
He might have got the detail wrong, but the overall message, would you disagree?
No, not at all. That's the point. Taking it to a second point, and let's have a discussion about mass migration and the state of this country, JD Vance and America are absolutely right. We need to control our borders. We need to make sure that British people, British citizens feel safe. The first duty of any government is to protect this country, and that's not happening. So move apart the stuff about Henry Novak and focus on the detail of what JD Vance and America have been saying about protecting this country. They are sending the warning shots to us. Britain, you've got to wake up. We have a problem in this country. We need to do something about it.
Now, Ryan sent me this story in the early hours. Ryan's on form today, by the way.
Oh,
he's had 8 hours sleep. He's never been so rested.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah, and he doesn't know himself
Does he
working
claim
with me.
those stress and disabled benefits and all those sorts of things? The 300 billion a year that we're spending on that?
Ryan Thrussell is the king of in-work benefits.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I mean, he's the main reason why we don't have, like, cruise missiles and stuff. We can't afford it.
You were saying earlier on about you want to increase it. Prime Minister Dolan would increase defence to 150 billion. I'd actually say go further. We spend 330 billion on benefits a year. We spend £1 million every 4 minutes on the NHS. That money, if we were spending that much money on defence, I tell you what, a boat would not cross this border.
That's a really, really good point. And Ryan sent me this story in early doors today, and you've touched on it. Henry Novak's weapons-obsessed killer filmed brandishing a gun in shocking video 3 years ago before he murdered the teen. And here we go again, Matthew, with missed opportunities. I am so sick of missed opportunities, whether it's Salman Abedi, the backpack-wielding Arab at the Manchester Arena Stadium that killed 20 people, whether it's Axel Rudikabana, another missed opportunity, even though his former head teacher flagged him up as a dangerous person. The same thing, you know, with various red flags that are ignored. Valdo Colcane, a psychotic monster who was a clear threat to the public, kills 3 people. I'm sick of these missed opportunities.
Well, that's where you start to question what's the point of services like Prevent if they don't prevent anything? What's the point of services like intelligence agencies where they do the digging on the information about people but then let them off because maybe the evidence goes cold or they haven't done anything recently? Right? What this proves is that A, we need to look far closer at what people are doing, and B, if you're on a list, you should never come off that list because you never know what someone's going to do in the future. So I think this is... Look, let's see what details come out. Remember, also, this guy who killed Henry Novak, and I don't want to keep repeating his name because it's not acceptable that this murderer should get as much airtime as he's getting, right? He was thrown out of... by the Sikh community. He was disowned by them for his behaviour and his morbid obsessions with weapons and with crime and with danger. So there were warning signs, and this video has come out of someone who reported it to... I was reading the details. They reported it to the police, but the police, A, couldn't find anything on their records, so what went wrong there, and B, argued that, well, actually, airsoft rifles, pistols, things like that, there are reasons where you can have them in the UK, it's not illegal. So there's got to be those questions then, a few years later, where the Sikh community's disowning this guy because of his obsession with weapons and crime and violence, that you think, oh, hold on. There was a video a few years ago of him with weapons. Now he's saying he's got an obsession with crime, violence and weaponry. Let's put 2 and 2 together. Let's start... Why was this never on a system? Why was it never on a database?
Well, no word of a lie. I've got 2 sons, and if one of my boys had been of that profile, of the Rudikabana or this other individual, I would go to the cops and I'd say, my son is dangerous. I love my son, but my son's brain doesn't work correctly.
Yeah.
Right? He's got a problem. There's a major personality disorder here. And he's dangerous, and I need to give you all that information, and this is where he lives. If then my son is purchasing weapons, if then my son hurts someone, I'm going to the cops and I'm going to say, please arrest my son and please jail him. But all too often, the families and the communities don't do that. And what do, Matthew? They circle the wagons.
Well, we've seen, and, you know, obviously there's ongoing cases to go with the murderer's family members and perverting the course of justice
knives.
At the moment. But it's things like that. It is...
lying to cops.
Exactly. If something happens, you need to be honest and truthful, because on the flip side, a family has lost their son, a family has lost a loved one, a kid who had his life ahead of him for nothing. We will never know what the reason was that they crossed paths. There was We will never know that because I don't trust the murderer to ever tell us the truth, right? We will never know. But this guy has lost his life. It has caused division and outrage in this country. Finally, I hope we're going to go back to some common sense policing, get rid of the DEI rubbish and start just patrolling the streets and dealing with criminals based on the crime, not the colour, ethnicity or background.
And I don't trust the families.
Oh, I don't trust the family of the murderer at the moment.
I'm sick of the families. I mean, that footage of the brother of this monster that killed Henry Novak with a tall story about how his brother had been racially abused.
Very well created.
It was
on
very
the spot.
articulate.
Very well created.
This was like real Oscar-winning performance, wasn't it?
Well, you know, maybe they'll get an award or something for it. Hopefully, a lot of years behind bars.
Yeah, I'm actually sick of the families that protect these monsters, and it's maybe a silly parallel, but my youngest is learning to drive at the moment, and the other day he was just a little bit too rapid for my liking. Right? He was within the speed limit and took that corner a bit quickly. And I said, you've got to slow down because you could hit someone.
And you never know what's around the corner. Someone might step out. There might be a kid grabbing a football.
Now, I know
all
that's not the same as a machete that you bought from Amazon. I get it. Yeah. It ain't a ceremonial sword. But he's in a car and he's going a little bit too quickly. And I have a duty of care to the public.
Yeah.
And you've got to slow down because there's people, there's road users. There could be a kid on it, what's it? And why are we not getting more of this from the families?
Well, it's everything, whether it's from crime and serious crime like murders, all the way through to personal responsibility and things like littering and fly tipping.
Bingo.
Everything.
It's an attitude, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. We have to take personal responsibility. We have to do the right thing. We have to think of our others.
I tell you what, we're cooking with gas today, and we've got a brand new call screener alongside the elite level Fantastic Rory. We've got Kira, and we've delivered us full switchboard. I don't know how we're going to get all the calls packed in, but we are going to, because I like a challenge. Multiple questions for you this morning. Is J.D. Vance, the US Vice President, right that Britain is facing civilizational collapse? Are we losing our national identity? Winston Churchill cancelled by the Bank of England, not on the banknotes. All of that to come. Your calls, big opinions. This is Talk... what is it? It's Talk Breakfast. I nearly said Talk Sport. It's not Talk Sport. It's... Let me tell you that my sport is the news, and we've got more to come.
Vardy Callicane was a 32-year-old black man. He murdered 3 white people. Not once in any part of the conversation or reporting was there any racial profiling or even the question raised.
I don't want to drag this boy onto the issues, not onto Henry, and that is something that the family have asked for.
35 years I've been doing this. I've never seen a moment when most of mainstream media and most of mainstream politics was more out of touch with the country than over this issue. Quite extraordinary.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast, and so much to get through. Is Britain facing civilisational decline? With me live in the studio, Matthew Goodwin Freeman. And Matthew, we've got the front page of the Daily Telegraph, also pretty wild. Winston Churchill cancelled for not being inclusive.
Yeah.
He doesn't fit modern Britain. Your reaction?
Well, one of our greatest prime ministers who led us through the Second World War, when everyone was saying, hey, let's appease Hitler, let's start speaking German, let's hand this country over. No, he turned around, he said, we're going to keep fighting them on the beaches, we're going to keep going, and now we're taking them off the banknotes. It's ridiculous. I'm really sorry, but this country has a lot of history that we should feel proud of. We need to stop rewriting it, we need to stop covering it up, we need to stop washing away our parts. Yes, there were bad moments, but there were bad moments around the rest of the world. Why on earth should anyone alive today be apologising for something that happened before any of them were born? And look, Winston Churchill might have had some unpopular views at the time when he was around, but we all have views that are acceptable now, which maybe in 50 years' time won't be. But you can't retrospectively judge people.
Most definitely not, and that is the big problem. The issue you've got is that we need to acknowledge our past and, in fact, celebrate it, because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for those figures. But those issues don't tick boxes. Our past is not diverse. How do you square that circle?
Oh, the fact is that our past, you can't change the past. Our past is how it is. We know what's happened. Do you want to spend the rest of the days looking backwards and thinking, oh, how dreadful, oh, how wrong, we've got to, you know, oh, let's focus on this, let's all feel sorry. Or are we going to look to the future? Are we going to look to change? But no, the future that we can look forward to is a hedgehog, a moth, a badger, a basking shark. Who knows what it's going to be on the notes anymore to replace the greats of Turing, Austin, Churchill. It's just ridiculous.
Most definitely is. Phil is in Hertfordshire. Good morning, Phil. Welcome to Talk Breakfast.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, Mark. What a great show so far. Mark, the point I'd like to make is, and the question is, why has it taken Keir Starmer 6 months to meet Henry's parents? This happened in December, didn't it?
Phil, you are so right, and the Prime Minister has been deafening in his silence. And in fact, we hit this story very hard last weekend, and we were still waiting for remarks from the Prime Minister. This is a guy that took the knee for a convicted American felon literally hours after his murder in the United States.
Absolutely. And the only reason he's done it, in my opinion, Mark, is Nigel Farage stood up in Parliament and let rip. If Nigel Farage had not have done that, the meetings would not have taken place. I'm absolutely certain of that, in my opinion. That's why it happened. He's trying to save face, too little, too late. And in the eyes of the Defence Minister, we see you. You know, it's so obvious. And there was another point, Mark, that I wanted to make. There's a little video flying around online, and there's this at the Southampton protests. There's this guy sitting on a wall. The police yank him off the wall, drag him into the road. At that point, 5 other police officers pile in on him. They're hitting him on the back, on the head with the undersides of their shields. He goes down on the floor, and it's clear to see that one of the cops piles in with his knee, is constantly kneeing him. They've just turned into brutes. They're just thugs. It's just beyond comprehension.
Now, of course, the police... I hear what you're saying, Phil, and I respect and acknowledge your account. Police are not here to defend themselves. We don't have the full context, but I think what I'm hearing from you, Phil, and stay with us if you can, Matthew Goodwin-Freeman, is, on the part of Phil and many others, a lack of confidence in the police now, that we don't trust our coppers anymore.
Oh, there's a massive drain in confidence on the police. When you report something, you want it to be investigated fairly, and you don't want any tick boxes to be taking place. I think Phil's hit the nail on the head. People would not be talking about this in the same way as they would everything that happened with George Floyd and Black Lives Matter if it weren't to do with Nigel Farage being on course to be the next Prime Minister. Now, Nigel Farage made his emergency address on the morning after the court case. We saw what happened afterwards. I think Nigel Farage could have maybe picked different words and calmed fears and calmed what was going on, and certainly after what we saw in Southampton. But I agree, I have seen those videos that Phil's mentioned. I've seen the behaviour of the police. There has got to be a review into all of this. How the police deal with protests, how the police deal with riots, and how the police deal with a report of a stabbing and then listen to someone saying, oh, I was racially abused.
Phil, what do you think of the Prime Minister saying that Elon Musk, the Vice President J.D. Vance and Nigel Farage are creating division and stirring up hatred? What would you say to that, Phil?
Well, they haven't, have they? Because, like, the government and the Prime Minister's done that. It's plain to see. And what's happening is like the likes of Elon Musk and Nigel Farage, they're just highlighting what's happened and what is happening and what will continue to happen unless something's done about it. That's all they're doing. They're highlighting the situation. It's not like they've created it. It's not like their comments have actually sparked a reaction. This is happening, and it's been happening for some time now. You know, and we always go, oh, yes, lessons to be learned, lessons to be learned. We get it. Well, nothing's happened. Nothing. It's got worse.
Nothing's happened. And thank you, Phil, for a brilliant call. This is the issue, is the likes of Vance and Elon Musk and Nigel Farage are being told that they're creating division, sparking hatred, Matthew. But what they are really doing, what's happening here, they are the messenger that's being shot.
Well, they're saying the warning signs of where this country is going. I now hope, as Phil rightly said, we're all told lessons alert, lessons alert. Well, what change is actually going to happen? I want to see DEI training coming out of our police handbooks. I want us to be focusing on crime and dealing with crime. I want us to be focusing on fair sentencing. I want us to actually say to criminals, if you commit a crime, we are coming after you with everything that we've got. Because the British public deserve to feel safe. The British public deserve to trust in their police that when something goes wrong, you call 999, a copper will come and a copper will sort it.
Amen to that. Lillian is in England's second city of Birmingham. Hi, Lillian. Welcome to Talk Breakfast.
Oh, good morning, Mark.
How are you, my darling?
I'm all right, thank you. I'd just like to say I agree with everything J.D. Vance has said. Thank God somebody can see what's going on, and it's such a shame that it's a government from another country that has to see what's going on. I watched the Houses of Parliament and the House of Commons, and it's like watching an episode of The Muppet Show.
Wow.
They sit there tittering and laughing when it's serious things that they're discussing, that they disgust me. And as for our police officers, there is two-tier policing. And let me tell you now, when the United Kingdom was on, they deployed 4,000 officers there to, it was a festival of people. There was no violence. And they used the taxpayers' money we had to pay for that. And, you know, you've got these violent demonstrations, these Palestinian ones, that are on every week, shouting river to the sea and God knows what else. And, like, you don't see the police in riot gear at them. But no, when it happened in Southampton the other day, the police provoked everything that happened that day. I don't condone violence. Let me get that clear. But let me tell you now, they were pushing people off the steps at first. Then they come out in all the riot gear. And then I watched a clip of about 8 officers got a man on the floor and they were hitting him with their shields and everything. It's absolutely disgusting. There's no pride in the police force. They're all a bunch of scrubs. And it seems to me that there's no vetting neither, because any Tom, Dick and Harry can go in there. You got, no disrespect to the girls, but you've got 5-foot girls on the streets. What are they going to do? Come on, let's be honest. My daughter-in-law wanted to be a police officer. She's only 5 foot. She works in forensics now. And I says to her, do not go on them streets. You will not be safe. We're not safe. You're not going to be safe. It's disgusting. I'm absolutely appalled what's going on in this country. And if we don't do something now, we're all going to be lost.
Lillian, can you, by the way, just to say on the cops, again, we don't have the full context. The police are not here to defend themselves. They will argue they've done everything to maintain law and order. Briefly, Lillian, how has Birmingham changed in your lifetime?
Well, put it this way, I won't even go into my city centre. I will go nowhere near it. I won't walk.
You won't go. Sorry, let me just let that sink in for my massive audience and Matthew in the studio, Lillian. You will not go into the city centre of England's second city and your hometown.
Oh, I certainly will not, and neither will none of my family. It's not safe. You're actually putting yourself in danger to go into that city centre. And let me just make this point as well. I've just seen that a top police officer, a top police officer charged with, I think it's £750,000 of fraud or something. You know, they're just not vetting these people that are supposed to be looking after us. It's not right. They don't care about us. And we have got decent police officers, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But they're overwhelmed by the rotten apples, let me tell you now.
Devastating call. Lillian, thank you for your honesty. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us this morning. And Lillian's story is all too familiar, Matthew.
Well, the fact that people don't feel safe in this country is the headline that needs
in their hometown.
It's ridiculous. I mean, we're here in London, right? Crime feels like it's going up. I know the Mayor of London, who's the Police and Crime Commissioner, likes to cherry-pick stats and data to make himself look good, but crime in this city and this country feels like it's going up. Knife crime, burglaries, homicides, stabbing. We got burgled a couple of weeks ago, reported it to the police. Now, I do have to disagree slightly with what Lillian says. The vast majority of police officers in this country are good cops who are trying to work hard and trying to do their best. There are rotten apples, we know this, who need to be got out of the police. Vetting standards need to be upped. I do agree as well, the profile of a police officer, I think, needs to be looked at. Because I'm a firm believer that if you are going to commit crime in this country, you should be scared of being caught and scared of the punishment. Deterrence is part of it. And so I do agree with that side of what Lillian's saying, of actually, if there's a police officer walking down the street, everyone starts to feel a bit either reassured or, if they've got something to hide, a bit more nervous.
Most definitely. Matthew, brilliant to have you in the studio. Are you still doing your hit YouTube show?
I'm looking at how I can reframe it, rework it, but it's called Matthew's Blueprint for Britain on YouTube, and I definitely want to hear comments and ideas of what we could do, because I think it's going to be fun, speaking common sense, saying how it is, because we need a bit of change in this country.
One of the reasons why I'm so nice to you is that you'll be in charge at some point.
That's very kind of you. Well, look, I enjoy loving doing this, and I'm back on again tomorrow as well, so if you missed today, you can always listen.
What time are you on?
10 a.m. with the great Peter Garber.
Fantastic stuff. Well, you're a great man yourself. My thanks to Matthew Goodwin Freeman. Have an excellent Saturday. Always a treat. You couldn't make it up, folks. Winston Churchill cancelled by the Bank of England. Who should go on those banknotes? 8:34. This is Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. Properly excited because we have a journalist of elite level calibre, the editor-at-large, no less, of the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths. Hello, Charlotte.
Morning.
Top of the morning. Listen, we're going to get to some fun stories after 2:15, which is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And his wonderful income from the, is it the Royal Lodge? Where he used to live? On the Windsor estate. And, of course, that mysterious shiner, the strange bruise. What is the story? So we'll come to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor shortly. But lots of other big stories to get through. Quite a lot of anger about the banknotes. And I think the reason why, our viewers and listeners, they don't care about a piece of paper and the currency as such. It's symbolic. Representing our history, representing national identity. So check this out, front page of the Telegraph. Bank axed Churchill for being too elitist. research commissioned by the Bank of England concluded that figures such as Winston Churchill, Alan Turing and Jane Austen, no less, were contentious and not representative of the UK's cultural and national diversity. It's not a good look, is it?
I've never heard of anyone less contentious than Jane Austen. I mean, Jane Austen...
Have you read her work?
Of course. I mean GCSE English was my whole... You know, I love Jane Austen.
She knew her way around a sentence, didn't she?
She was, yes. And all she does is very sweet, docile, romantic love stories, which are very popular on the BBC. So I'm ruling that out as absolute nonsense. I know Churchill's divisive.
Well, he contained within him unfashionable views that were not unusual for the early 20th century.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just think it's an absolute joke. Of all places, the Bank of England to find Churchill divisive, I think it's complete madness.
Well, Churchill's views prior to that were rather typical of any aristocrat, and a good number of Brits, notwithstanding, given our colonial history. There is the small matter that Churchill defeated the worst monster in human history.
Oh, yeah, that's probably a plus point. I'd say maybe we could give him a brownie point for that. All of these people have something in common, which is they are quite well educated and posh and white, which seems to be a bad thing, and well, you know, good at writing, good and brainy people. Is that a problem now? Is that
you have to
something
wonder.
to be punished for?
I did ask you, by the way, I ask every guest before they come on to check their privilege. Have you checked yours this morning?
Yeah, well, I think I'd probably fall into the privilege camp, I'm afraid.
Yeah,
I went to a minor public
except
school.
that, like everyone else, you've got bills to pay and a mortgage and have to battle through life, because it ain't that easy for anyone, is it?
Yeah.
We'll get to alternatives to Churchill on the £5 note shortly. Let me know what you think. Text the word talk and your message to 87222. My brilliant producer Ryan has suggested wrong answers only. So far I've got Diane Abbott's. We think it might be a £5.20 note, or maybe £4.77.
Diane Abbott needs those £5 notes to buy new shoes, because she's always getting her shoes muddled up.
Isn't that confusing? May God bless her. Mr. Blobby I thought would be quite good. There's always Gary Lineker. Any of the Garys, really. Gary Neville. Carol Vorderman might be quite nice. Let me know. Answers on a postcard. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, has blasted the UK government. He's really unhappy about the circumstances, Charlotte, around the murder of Henry Novak. And this is the full story that we've got. And I'll give it to you. It's in the Times, actually. I've got so many papers here. And what I've developed is the bad habit of... You see, I do this, which is a big mistake, and chuck the papers around, which gets me in trouble.
The Mail.
Well, listen, I've got to tell you, the Mail's a cracking read. It's not the most read English newspaper in the world for no reason. The Times, Vance links teen's death to invasion of migrants. Here is the quote. J.D. Vance has accused European elites of failing to stand against the politics of self-hatred and the mass immigration of people who despise the West. Now, I'll grant you, it's very heated language. It's probably intemperate. But I don't think that the Americans have anything other than our best interests at heart.
Oh, I don't know. I think J.D. Vance is incredibly self-interested. He's obviously, you know, obsessed with Christianity. He's spoken about that himself. I have to say, you know, we were talking about Churchill earlier. I think we've got to be a bit patriotic here. We cannot let Americans like J.D. Vance come and accuse us of being, you know, of getting involved, basically, in our politics.
Yeah, and because he's talking about civilizational collapse.
Yeah, exactly, civilization collapse. And he said that we are the most likely candidates for being Muslims with a nuclear weapon, didn't he? And things like that. I just think it's in highly incendiary language. I think coming off the back of Elon Musk, I think it's inappropriate. And, you know, he might have our... You know, he might have the right sentiment. I don't think he has our best interests at heart. And I don't think we should let an American like J.D. Vance come and interfere in our civil society.
Now, you're one of the country's leading scribes. You're the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday, and you are an iconoclast, and you know about noise, and you know how to separate noise from message. And yes, intemperate, hot-headed, incendiary, noisy, absolutely. But what's the message under it? The message is... From the Americans, I think, we love the United Kingdom. You seem to have lost your way. Whatever happened to free speech? Why don't you have border control? 75,000 people entered the country illegally since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. Crazy, crazy numbers of legal immigration, which most of the public, including Labour voters, are against. A Boris wave of circa 2.5 million people over 4 years. The Americans... don't think this is great, and many of my viewers and listeners, and probably your readers, agree.
No, I do agree, of course, on border control and, of course, on the principle. But I think this incident is already highly incendiary. It's already been an incredibly difficult week for us all to go through. And to just throw that grenade in at the end of this week, I just don't think is appropriate. I don't think it's appropriate for this case. This case was absolutely unbelievably tragic. But I separate it personally from the border control issue.
Well, of course, because the man that murdered Henry Novak was not an illegal immigrant.
Exactly.
A British Sikh.
He was a British Sikh. You know, Sikhs are 0.9% of this population. You know, I do think that maybe we need to look at whether Sikhs should carry knives, or maybe they could have some different symbolic knife that isn't actually harmful.
Yeah.
That's an issue we can debate about, and obviously it's not a debate that this was a dreadful, dreadful tragedy. But I just think JD Vance broadening it out after a week of hysteria is unhelpful.
Well, what's happened is that the devil in the detail has done for him, because if it was Rhiannon White, who was murdered by an illegal immigrant who stayed at the hotel where she was working, attacks her with a screwdriver, I think you've got your righteous rage then. That's somebody that shouldn't have been in the country. It is a failure of policy that he kills an innocent British woman, right? And I think there you go. So unfortunately...
Where was he for then? Where was he for that incident?
Well, I
all
mean...
those poor girls that got raped outside Warwickshire.
You know, so I do hear what you're saying. That said, let's look at the alternative, which is Sir Keir Starmer, who it seems, Charlotte, doesn't want us to talk about this at all. Because, you know, where Vance, I think, has got it wrong, he's linked it to illegal immigration. You're so right. That's actually, you know, essentially, wrong. But two-tier justice, two-tier policing. Henry Novak, not believed as he lay on the ground, dying. You know, I can't breathe. I don't think so, mates. Potentially, a judgment was made because this is a Sikh family telling cops they were racially abused. White boy on the ground says, I'm dying. I don't think so, mate. I feel that a judgment was made there that he was prejudged, Henry Novak. So two-tier policing is something we should be angry about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, that I totally agree on. The fact he wasn't, the other party in the whole incident wasn't handcuffed, it's just appalling. And, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, this whole thing about should we be taking the knee, it definitely needs to be discussed. I don't understand
because
why
we lost our minds after George Floyd,
exactly.
didn't we? It was very, very sad.
Shouldn't we be taking the knee now?
Make it make sense. Very sad that George Floyd died, and that was a disastrous scenario. But it was in America. It was nothing to do with the culture of British policing. But yet, we were told after George Floyd, and you remember, and you were in Fleet Street at the time, as you still are, that this is a moment for the world. And the UK can learn. There are parallels. So we had to take the knee, and we also had to have righteous anger. Now, this chap, who, may God rest his soul, was likely the victim of two-tier policing. We're not allowed to be angry. We can't take the knee. Shut up and move on.
No, I think the righteous anger is appropriate for us now. I think, just as with JD Vance interfering, I don't think we had any right to really interfere with George Floyd and start having our politicians taking the knee. Of course, we were right to have an opinion about George Floyd. It was a horrible, horrible incident, just as this is. But, you know, I just don't think this thing of other countries getting involved and taking the knee and having righteous anger. We, the British population, we know how to feel. It's our country. And, you know, I think we should obviously be incredibly angry, but, yeah, it would be nice to see Keir Starmer showing a little bit of anger or passion.
What's the mood at the Mail in regard to this story of Henry Novak? Why your paper is successful is because you're umbilically connected to sort of the concerns and sentiments of your readers. And it's quite a broad church, the Mail readership, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a broad church. I think there's a lot of... there are calm heads in the Mail readership. So, you know, I think cold rage probably overstates it. I think people think it's a tragedy. A lot of our readers are female, so they'll really be thinking about that. The poor mother of Henry Novak and the poor family around him. I think good family values is probably what our readers are concerned with, and how tragic it is. And the family asked us all to remain calm. And so I think that's where the Mail would stand.
Where I'm unhappy is that it seems the Prime Minister is leveraging the words of the Novak family for his own ideological purposes, because I think it's the instinct of the progressive left, whose natural leader is Sir Keir Starmer, because he's irredeemably woke, is for things like this to happen, which shine a light on two-tier policing. And his argument is, the family don't want us to talk about this, don't make it political. Well, I'm so sorry, Charlotte, but guidance to police and the culture of the police college and the ideas peddled are political. Because if you have an unreasonable and disproportionate focus on skin colour as a police officer, then you're going to have a divided society and you're going to be less safe.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they met with Kemi Badenoch, and Kemi Badenoch did talk to them about two-tier policing, and they said they wanted more, the family said they wanted more common sense policing, which I, by the way, think is exactly what the Mail readers would agree with.
Yeah.
I mean, that is talking about policing.
Isn't it?
So actually to ignore that, it's clearly something they're going to campaign
And actually,
on now.
the left can't have it both ways, can they? Because if George Floyd was a moment and we should be angry and change must happen, which I don't disagree with, why not Henry Novak too? It's a moment. Righteous anger, change must happen.
Yeah.
Because I think if Novak proves one thing, that I think it demonstrates that all is not well in the garden.
Yeah, and how nice would it be for his tragic death to at least lead to some meaningful change, which I think the family would wholeheartedly approve of. And I think Kemi Badenoch was actually brilliant when she met with him. She said all the right things afterwards.
What is going on with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's strange bruise? We've got the inside story next.
Vardy Calacane was a 32-year-old black man. He murdered 3 white people. Not once in any part of the conversation or reporting was there any racial profiling or even the question raised.
I don't want to drag this boy onto the issues, not onto Henry, and that is something that the family have asked for.
35 years I've been doing this. I've never seen a moment when most of mainstream media and most of mainstream politics was more out of touch with the country than over this issue. Quite extraordinary.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
What is the story around Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's mysterious bruise? Well, to answer that, 2 elite-level royal journalists. We have the editor-at-large of the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths, who knows a royal scoop when she sees one, and a very good friend of mine, now poached over by the Digital Spy, formerly at the Mail, the editor of Digital Spy, Sarah Louise Robertson. Great to have both of you with me. Sarah Louise, what is going on with Bruce?
Hello there. It's lovely to be on with Charlotte, my former colleague and very good friend. So this is fun. Double whammy. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, this is interesting because it's been a very turbulent time this week for Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the former Duke of York. And I would say that probably most of the country has wanted to, and I'm going to be quite robust in my language here, maybe punch Andrew's lights out for what has gone on with his behaviour and the disgusting tawdry allegations that we've heard in terms of his involvement with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. So I think it would be surprising if you spoke to most people, they would want to give Andrew a smack in the face, but actually there's not really any drama with this one, Mark. That hasn't happened to him. I know everyone thinks someone's like been let loose and had a go at Andrew. Could it have even been one of his son-in-laws or one of his staff? And we wouldn't be surprised by that. But no, it's not the case. According to the Times newspaper, which has a hotline, shall we say, into Buckingham Palace, Andrew it's down actually to a medical condition, and obviously we have to be careful when talking about health, but they said there's no drama with this, and what it actually is that sometimes when you're taking different medication for things, that can cause bruising, and we've obviously seen that great big pink mark when he was driving back into his new home, Marsh Farm in Sandringham Estate, which did look like a kind of black eye was forming. So that's why people might have thought, oh, he's been, taken a bit of a whopper to the face. But no, it's not that. Buckingham Palace has led the Times into this report, and they're saying actually it could be down to a medication that he's taking.
Now, Sarah Louise, I hear you on that, but given the rather strange circumstances in which Jeffrey Epstein died, took his own life, even though he'd never shown suicidal instincts before that, for some reason there was no prison guard present at the time, even though at that point he was the world's most famous criminal, and then the CCTV didn't work. So, Charlotte Griffiths, I hear what Sarah Louise is saying, but many will have questions about that bruise and won't be 100% sure it's medical.
Sarah, I hate to argue with you because you're a very good friend of mine, but when the Palace says no drama, it means there's drama. And I think the fact that Andrew chose to drive past the photographers that he was supposed to be avoiding like the plague, with his face looking right at them, knowing that they'd get a picture. Now, this is a man who managed to evade all the photographers at his granddaughter's christening and managed the famous picture of him leaving Royal Lodge was when he was halfway down, sliding down the back seat, which is why it was so unflattering. He knows exactly how to avoid the photographers. So I think he wanted drama. I think he wanted to be seen with that large bruise on his face. And I heard that he's very, very distressed not to be invited to the royal wedding today, Peter Phillips's wedding. Doesn't understand why he wasn't invited. And I think something bigger happened. I do. I don't know if he was punched. I think when the Palace says no drama, just a medical condition, we've learnt from experience, they are masters in the art of playing something down, and often it means there absolutely has been a drama. Let's not forget when Princess Anne was kicked in the face by a horse. They played that down quite a lot at first. And it turned out many months later we found out that she was more or less in a coma.
Yes, she was much iller than previously thought. Sarah Louise, I'll come back to you in a second. The runners and the riders, if someone has punched Andrew, Charlotte, well, Harry's in the United States, so that would be a physical challenge. What about Prince William, who famously gave Harry a right hook? We know about that from the book Spare.
Yeah, it could well have been Prince William, but, don't forget, I think Harry and Andrew did actually have a fight once, and he wrote about it in Spare. And we know, of course, as you say, that William and Harry had a fight. So this is a family that do have fights, they are basically posh EastEnders.
The other possibility is, Charlotte, that, he could have fallen down the stairs.
Yes.
A lot of my viewers on the Mark Dolan show on YouTube, Sarah Louise, are saying, he's sort of just basically depressed now and getting drunk every night.
He's deeply depressed. He is. I have been.
But the only thing is, he's not a drinker. He's not a drinker, is he?
Well, he says he's not a drinker. He said he didn't sweat as well, Mark, and then we found out that wasn't true with those infamous photographs of him leaving Triumph nightclub with huge big sweat patches under his armpits and a sweaty red face. So, yes, look, Andrew has tried to claim in the past that he doesn't drink, he's teetotal, he doesn't sweat. He's claimed a lot of things, that he was in Pizza Express at a birthday party for his daughter, Princess Beatrice's birthday when she was a child. There's a pig flowing over my head. Oh, look, there's another one gone across my head the other side. There we go. So I think, look, we take that with a pinch of salt. And Charlotte, darling Charlotte, yes, you do make very good points there. We do know the palace can be quite duplicitous at times and try and lead us down another garden path. We can't go into Andrew's health as such, but I have been told that he has been in a dark place this year. This entire move has shaken him. He's gone. This was a man who lived like an absolute potentate, Mark, and he's gone from that. At one point, he was living in a caravan on Sandringham Estate, and now he's in Marsh Farm. It's a sort of small cottage, but he's also been back in the news. There could be a chance that he might have to repay money back to the Crown. All of these things. So he's under enormous pressure right now. And the noose is tightening around his neck. The talks of him going to America to face questioning and speak to officials in America over Virginia Giuffre, over this idea of sex trafficking, it hasn't gone away.
Now, that is a huge exclusive from you, Sarah Louise, that you are hearing that Prince Andrew, formerly, of course, now Andrew Mountbatten-Winter, is in a really dark place. Just briefly, if you can, before we get to Harry, is he a safeguarding risk?
He's been a safeguarding risk since this all started. He really has. And that's why the king is doing what he can out of a familial duty of care. At the end of the day, Andrew is still his brother.
Wow.
So he does have brotherly responsibility in that sense. He can't completely shake him off. And until Andrew is proven guilty in a court of law, and the king has stipulated that due process must be given to this, which he's following all the rules. That's why Andrew had to be arrested, face all that humiliation, blah, blah. But the king still, as a brother, is concerned about Andrew's welfare, as was Prince Edward, his youngest brother. And Sophie, remember, they went and had a takeaway with him when they were on Sandringham Estate not too long ago. And Anne, I've been told, Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, does check in as well. So the reason why he's not at Peter Phillips's wedding today is completely down to how that would look, the aesthetics of that.
Pretty wild. And Charlotte, briefly, if you can, Harry's not happy about this wedding to with Peter Phillips. He's not invited, of course.
Yeah, this is my favourite story, the royal story today. It's page 3 of the Mail. I'll keep it brief, but in 2008, the first time Peter Phillips got married, there were lots of lovely, glorious photos, and all the family happily posed for these photos, and Harry posed for photos with Chelsea Davy, who in 2008 was meeting the Queen for the first time. And now Harry's complaining, saying, I wouldn't go to that wedding anyway because he'll sell the photos.
You couldn't make it up, could you? Charlotte Griffiths and Sarah Louise Robertson, the Royal Dream Team. So brilliant to have you both. Truly honoured. Thank you for joining us. Is Britain facing civilisational collapse? Dolan's Dispatch is next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Three minutes past 9. Well, top of the morning to you. Happy Saturday, one and all. Your weekend starts here. This is Talk Breakfast. I'm Mark Dolan, and a big hour to come. Breaking this morning, the US Vice President J.D. Vance blasts the UK government with a warning on mass immigration, saying that Britain is facing civilizational collapse. Is the White House right to intervene? Meanwhile, Andy Burnham, the man who would be Prime Minister, says that pubs and farmers are taxed unfairly, and if he was Prime Minister, he would look again at the national insurance tax rate. So would Andy Burnham be an improvement on the current incumbent at number 10? I'll be getting the views of the political editor of The Sun on Sunday. And what about this? The Bank of England have decided that Winston Churchill is too elitist, too divisive to be on our banknotes. Why do our public institutions have this attitude? My question to you this morning is a simple one. Is Britain losing its national identity? And what about J.D. Vance? Is he right to intervene on British politics, or is Starmer right that the Vice President is stirring up hatred and division? Is Britain facing civilisational collapse? 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note. We love a voice note, don't we? You can hear us on the radio, DAB+, in-app and online. You can also watch Dolan's Dispatch and see all of my amazing guests. Head to YouTube, search Talk and Up We Pop. I'm looking for an out of 10 for this tie today. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but neither am I. You can't please all the people all the time. So much to get through. This is Talk, so let's talk. And we'll kick off with, as always, at this time, every Friday, Saturday and Sunday, with Dolan's Dispatch. I had less to do today because it was actually the Vice President of the United States that wrote today's Dolan's Dispatch. It contains within it all of the key messages that we have to understand in modern Britain. Now, he got some of the detail wrong, and he linked the vile murderer of Henry Novak to illegal immigration. That was wrong, because Henry Novak was murdered by a British Sikh man, and the British Sikh community is hugely underrepresented when it comes to violent crime in this country. As a community group, it is among the most peaceful. So he got that wrong. So some of the detail wasn't right. The broad message was spot on, and here it is. The Vice President, a man that will likely be the next President of the United States, posted the following on X. He wrote, Henry Novak died the same way that a civilization dies. Abandoned, handcuffed by authorities who neither trusted nor cared for him, and accused of hate crimes he did not commit. The Vice President goes on to say, his murder is as tragic as it is enraging. He should still be alive today, and he would be if the last few generations of European elites had stood their ground against the politics of self-hatred and the mass invasion of migrants, many of whom despise the West and the people who love it. The Vice President goes on to say, Henry Novak was far from the first to so needlessly lose his life, and I fear he won't be the last. Each time a life like his is lost, the proper response, the only response, is righteous anger. The Vice President goes on to say one of the most important things the Trump administration has proven to the world is that stopping the flow of mass migration and defending national sovereignty is a matter of political will and leadership. He goes on to say anything else is an excuse. It is because we love the West that we want to preserve it. He says we love our civilization, we love our country, we love our children, and nobody should ever die the way that Henry Novak died. May God comfort those who loved him, and may God rest his soul. Now, that is a remarkable post from the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, a man that is a huge talent, who came from very humble origins. He was a son of a single-parent family, his mother a drug addict. His childhood was a story of chaos and neglect and poverty. And yet, he transformed his life, got into law college, then was a financier, and is now Vice President of the United States. Talk about rags to riches. And this guy is demonstrating, as Donald has demonstrated over several years, that he is a friend of the United Kingdom, that he cares. And sometimes, when your friend tells you that you're going in the wrong direction, the best thing to do is to be humble and to listen. Now, he got some of the detail wrong, because Henry Novak's murderer was not an illegal immigrant and an embedded British citizen. That is not to dilute this egregious and horrific crime. But the takeaway from Henry Novak's murder, which of course I've been talking about on this network for days and days and days, whilst the silence from Keir Starmer was deafening, and what that story was, the takeaway from Henry Novak's murder was two-tier policing. And it's not just J.D. Vance that's been speaking out about this. The US State Department just 2 days ago posted a similar message on X saying that if you have two-tier policing, that is the road to hell. That is the beginning of civilizational collapse. And they are absolutely right. Henry Novak, handcuffed as he bled out of his own body, based upon a lie of a racially aggravated assault. That is civilizational collapse. A bearded Arab man with a huge backpack, not dealt with by security guards at the Manchester Arena, 20 dead. That is civilizational collapse. Potentially 250,000 or more young girls, predominantly white, raped, assaulted, attacked and abused by predominantly Pakistani Muslim men, allowed to commit those crimes because of a fear of being called racist, because of political correctness, because of community tensions. That is civilizational collapse. Axel Rudikabana, a dangerous monster, flagged up by his former head teacher, a very brave woman, who said, this kid is dangerous and a wrong-un and has an obsession with knives. She is categorised as racially profiling the guy. He goes on to kill 3 little girls at a Taylor Swift-themed concert. Civilizational collapse. Meanwhile, Keir Starmer says there's nothing to see here. Don't talk about this. Our egregious Prime Minister has even weaponised the words of Henry Novak's family by saying they don't want you to talk about this. That's not true. What they don't want is violence and disorder. What they don't want is an overreaction the other way. But they have called for common sense policing. Now, what that means, that is coded language for colour-blind policing, which we now don't have. I've just told you about the grooming gangs. That was not colour-blind policing. Those men committed those crimes because they were brown. Axel Rudikabana committed his crimes because he was a man of colour. What about Cole Kane? This is a mentally ill black man who was not locked up in a secure unit because black men are overrepresented in such settings. so he's allowed to roam free. And I spoke to the mother of Barnaby yesterday, murdered by this monster, murdered by a man that should have been under lock and key, but wasn't, because of two-tier policing, two-tier justice, a two-tier NHS, two-tier local authority, two-tier social services, because of two-tier Britain. And far from being an enemy, far from being divisive, far from kicking up a stink and inflaming tensions, whether it's J.D. Vance, whether it's the heroic Elon Musk, who loves this show and is endlessly retweeting my interviews, whether it's Nigel Farage, who'll probably be our next Prime Minister at the next election, all of these people are guilty of only one thing, and that is telling the truth and calling out where we are as a country and how we are losing our way and how, yes, we are on the road to civilizational collapse. I'm not going to attack the Vice President, J.D. Vance. I'm going to say that once again, not for the first time, the Americans have demonstrated their true friendship. 03444991000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. JD didn't get the facts right, the detail. It doesn't matter. I don't care. The point was correct, and I'm glad he made it. Big Andy is in North Wales. Hi, Andy.
Hi there, Mark.
I'm so happy to have you on. We've got a full switchboard, and you're at the very top of it. What would you like to say?
Well, I'm actually ringing about something else, but I agree with everything J.D. Vance has said. He's got it nailed on, and as you said, he's got it wrong about the Sikhs. I've known lots of Sikhs. They're completely...
Incredible community.
Yeah, they've integrated into
beautifully integrated.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But what I don't want is old Starmer saying, oh, division. Oh. I think what you're getting, Andy, before you get to your key point, right, I think what you're getting, Andy, is you're getting the Prime Minister with Elon Musk, J.D. Vance and Nigel Farage is killing the messenger.
He is. They absolutely despise X. X is giving us a voice. If we didn't have X, none of this would be exposed. They absolutely hate X. So we've got to protect it under all any extremes. We've got to protect X, and that is our only channel at the moment.
I know.
I have to say, you had that lady from the Mail. She is not a conservative. She is a closet Marxist, right? That woman, the editor of the Sunday Mail, she is not a conservative. So you've got the mainstream media in this country is corrupt. It's completely being destroyed. It's just full of socialists, liberals. There is no real conservative voice in media apart from potentially a bit of the Sun, which is ridiculous because I hate the Sun, and a bit of the Daily Express. So we do not in this country have a real voice apart from GB News, Talk Radio, and X. You are our voices.
Well, Andy, we're nothing without you. This network, other networks you mentioned, we don't exist without you calling up, without you listening and engaging. And Andy, you made some brilliant points. I'm not sure we've spoken before. Do call me again. I really appreciate your input on that. Going to get to more calls. In fact, I believe we've got Mark in Northern Ireland. Lisbon. Hi, Mark.
Good morning, Mark. First-time caller. Nice to be on.
Well, I'm honoured that you've called the show. Are you someone that calls radio stations often, Mark?
Here in Ulster, yes, I would maybe have the odd political opinion.
Do you call Nolan? Do you listen to him at all?
Yes, Mr. Slim Down Nolan.
Has he lost weight now? This is the BBC star. I've forgotten his first name now. Stephen Nolan.
Stephen Nolan.
What, is there less of the man than he was?
Much less of a man. Yes, I think he's tough to say.
I don't mind him. I quite like Stephen Nolan.
Yeah, he likes to be a wee bit controversial.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not like that, but we're each to their own. I'm very boring, actually.
No, I think our UK government is controversial without the commentators being too much.
Well, I know. Listen, Mark, I don't know if you caught Dolan's dispatch just a couple of minutes ago. Well, basically, I'm just saying that I actually welcome the input of the White House because I think they're our friends.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I would absolutely welcome J.D. Vance's intervention into the UK. And I don't see it as much as an intervention into UK politics as such. They are our closest allies, of course. It's not the people need to get their heads around it. It's not the people that are fighting. It's not us against America. It's Starmer's Labour government have wrecked this special relationship. Like this woke ideology and stuff really put the backs up of the Vance-Trump administration in a bigger geopolitical sense as well, because everything that's going on, I believe that America does have our best interests at heart. And I think if they don't speak out, who do we really have speaking out for us, apart from the odd individuals like Nigel Farage, Ben Habib, maybe Rupert Lowe, and people like that. And the point that I rang your show for, Mark, this morning was this, and it's an overwhelming fear that we as people in the United Kingdom, here in our 4 regions of the United Kingdom, are just sitting waiting now for the next tragedy to happen.
I know.
We all know it's coming. It's a sad reflection of society, but we all know something's coming.
It's what Vance said, the Vice President, Mark, that Henry Novak won't be the last.
No, absolutely won't be the last. You know, we remember Southport. We remember the Manchester bombings. We remember do you remember 7/7, the buses in London?
Thank you very much.
The
Batley school teacher, Salman Rushdie, the list is endless.
The list is endless. And it seems to be that the government has failed to react positively to the last attack. And they're just sitting, waiting, stalling. It's like putting the kettle on the back burner, waiting for it just to boil over again. And unfortunately, I have noticed, and I'm an ex-service, I'm ex-British Army myself. I was a veteran. I served my time here in Northern Ireland through the Troubles. And we have noticed quite a lot of senior British personnel are really talking about civil unrest. We come through, as you know, a really bad conflict here in Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
We have what we would say a relative peace. We would say it's a purchased peace here. But across the water, we have noticed there's this creeping. We have people like Aunt Middleton, the highly decorated ex-SAS soldier, coming out and saying, things that he's hearing things in the background. There's rumours, there's rumblings within that hidden minority of population within the United Kingdom who are very, very angry about lack of action by government. Now, it's not just the Labour government. The Tories did the same thing for 18 years. They sat on their hands and did nothing. We watched the decimation of the United Kingdom's culture. We have watched countless attacks. Look, I'm ex-service, and is Keir Starmer going to label me right-wing because I'm voicing an opinion? And
far right. You've got to get the language right, Marky.
Can I just say one more thing?
Go for it.
Quickly. Sorry, Mark. Just quickly, one more thing. I think that Keir Starmer is the most hypocritical Prime Minister ever. He has suggested, him and his co-chief Lammy has instigated that the US is interfering in British politics. What happened before the election when Labour sent over, was it 65 Labour people to help Kamala Harris against Trump? Surely
I know.
The hypocrisy's stinking. And I really think that we're waiting for the next event. It's coming. There's no doubt about it. There's going to be, if it's going to be a mass attack or a singular attack or a combination of both. We have recently had Belgian police informing the the United Kingdom authorities about the military age men,
all of that.
Men. Now they're coming here.
Marky, listen, I could listen to you all day. You're a lot better than Stephen Nolan, actually. You should be on BBC Radio Northern Ireland. Mark, will you call me again soon? Because a very interesting call. You mentioned an individual earlier, and I don't have the details of that particular case or the context, and they're not here to defend themselves, but you're entitled to your view. And I really, really enjoyed your input. I want to hear so much more from my audience in Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, because we are one united kingdom, and it's my understanding that everybody across the length and breadth of the land absolutely detests this woke stuff, detests open borders, detests net zero, which is economic suicide. We're all agreed on that. It's about 5% of the population that agree with that madness, but we are the majority. The silent majority here on Talk. More to come. Is Britain facing civilisational collapse? This is Talk Breakfast.
Varda Calacane was a 32-year-old black man. He murdered 3 white people. Not once in any part of the conversation or reporting was there any racial profiling or even the question raised.
I don't want to drag this boy onto the issues, not onto Henry, and that is something that the family have asked for.
35 years I've been doing this. I've never seen a moment when most of mainstream media and most of mainstream politics was more out of touch with the country than over this issue. Quite extraordinary.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It's always the highlight of the week to be joined live in the studio by the political editor of The Sun on Sunday, Kate Ferguson. Kate, great to see you.
Good to see you.
And let me tell you, you have, like, scoops by the dozen. And you broke the internet last week with the news that Andy Burnham, if he becomes Prime Minister, won't call a snap election. That was a massive story. And it's got huge implications, hasn't it? Because we did wonder, will he, won't he, if he gets into number 10. But it's pretty clear now, no election this year.
Yes, so we were waiting to see about this with Andy. Andy Burnham was considering calling an early election. There's lots of reasons, if he does win that by-election, if he does become Prime Minister, that he should call an early election because it means that he'll get his own mandate. He can do what he likes in number 10. Whereas currently, if it plays out as we think it will be, then you are going to end up with a Prime Minister no one voted for, apart from a few people, apart from the people of Makerfield and the kind of back from Stitch Up. But anyway, he's had to rule out a snap election. Why? Because Labour MPs hate the idea. Why? Because lots of them will lose their seats. And he needs Labour MP support to get the nominations to challenge Keir Starmer.
Because I think there is an argument. If I was Andy Burnham or advising him, I think there's an argument for a snap election, and I'll tell you for why. Obviously, he wants a mandate, but I think that the next couple of years are going to be very difficult politically and economically. And I think it's impossible for anyone to become Prime Minister at the moment and do well. The reason being, you've got no fiscal firepower. So if you become Prime Minister, Ryan Thrussell, our producer, becomes Prime Minister, what are you going to do for the next 2 years? Where's the money? You've got depleted public services, a hollowed-out military. You've got the border crisis, which ain't going to be solved overnight. So I just wonder whether actually being the continuity PM is going to be something of a poison chalice. I'd be tempted to go to the country, get a mandate, and possibly on a platform of different policies.
Yeah, I mean, I actually really agree with you. Andy Burnham's wanted to be Prime Minister a very long time, and it looks like he may finally get his ambition fulfilled. But it's a horrible year, really, to come in. He's coming in on someone else's manifesto, a manifesto that does, I mean, I don't want to see them raise taxes again, but binds him in terms of what taxes he can raise. He's going to enter a horrible economic firestorm at the end of the year when inflation's going to run hot. Food inflation
up to
maybe
6% potentially.
6 overall. Food inflation probably 10. You've got defence money to find. You're probably going to put taxes up in the budget, and then you've got an energy crisis which will spark mass calls for a bailout in the winter. So it's a really, really, really horrible time to come in for any Prime Minister, particularly a Labour leader, because their whole shtick to both their members, their MPs and their voters tends to be, we will spend money on this. And he's not going to have the money to spend.
Well, that's right. And my argument for him, not for myself or our viewers or your readers and our listeners, but my argument, if I was advising Burnham, is you have a snap election. Labour, I believe, lose that election, but have enough support from the Lib Dems, the SNP, potentially the Greens, to form some kind of coalition or confidence and supply. So I don't think that Burnham would win an overall majority given where the Labour brand is at. But I think he could cobble together something for 5 years. And funnily enough, if it was a rainbow coalition, that would give him political cover for more left-wing policies.
Yes, and we know, don't we, that Andy Burnham is a fan of PR. I think we're trying to work out where he actually is with that policy at the moment. I think he said that he thinks it would need a manifesto commitment to be introduced. But he is a man that's put great store by this idea that he can do electoral coalitions, maybe informal or not, in a way that other Labour leaders maybe can't.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fascinating. But notwithstanding that I think that he might benefit from a snap election, it ain't going to happen, most likely.
Well, he's ruled it out now, at least.
He's ruled it out. He's given an interview to The Telegraph, and he has said that the farmers and the pubs are being taxed unfairly. He also hasn't ruled out, Kate, looking again at the national insurance tax rate on employers. This is significant.
It's so funny, isn't it? Because he's running in a by-election, but actually all the questions, obviously, are on fiscal policy, big national questions. So there's a few things he seems to have done over the past, 24 hours, 48 hours. One is he said he wants to potentially look again at that NICS rise, Rachel Reeves' NICS tax increase. He's talked about cutting business rates for pubs and for small businesses. And now he's talked a bit about the family farm tax. I mean, these are big fiscal questions, big giveaways, that if he is going to cut some of these taxes, he's going to have to find the money from somewhere.
I'm also confused because he's going to stick to Rachel Reeves's fiscal rules.
Yes.
And he's probably not going to reverse Shabana Mahmood's efforts to change indefinite leave to remain.
Yes.
So, I mean, none of these things sound like left-wing policies, but the party wants to move leftwards. You've got a candidate that says he's the left candidate, suggesting right-wing things.
And this is going to be...
Make it make sense.
This is going to be the big problem for Andy Burnham if he ends up in number 10. So, does he actually stick to Rachel Reeves' fiscal rules? He's having to make these big noises that he will because the markets don't like him, because he gave a ridiculous interview a year ago in which he said we can't be in hock to the bond markets, and markets won't like that. So he cannot afford to have what some people in Labour fear he will have, which is a Liz Truss moment, i.e. get into number 10 and make markets wobble so much. You send interest rates high, you send mortgage rates high, and you increase the cost of borrowing for the country. So he needs to be reassuring to the markets. But, he's meant to be Mr. Left-Wing now. He's not a new Labour Blairite spad anymore. He's got quite a left-wing operation around him, and his whole vibe is, I'm going to change, rewire politics, change everything. You can't help but think he can but be a disappointment for some of his supporters.
Kate, before you run, what's your appraisal of the key party leaders' handling of the tragedy of Henry Novak's murder and the horrific police handling of it as he died, bled out of his own body? What's your appraisal of the Prime Minister's tone, Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage? Because each one of them have tread a different path, haven't they?
They've tread a slightly different path, yes, but I think really you can batch them into two. Look, Nigel Farage obviously has made quite a lot of this death and talked about how it shows that Britain is afflicted by two-tier policing. And I think he's the one that's more stridently made a political point. And I think you've seen Kemi and Keir take quite a different view and talk about, they've obviously been very critical of Nigel's comments, saying it stirs up division. And they've both taken a similar view in terms of privately meeting the family and being much more restrained in some of the language they've used. Look, I think that Nigel Farage's comments will hit a nerve with a lot of listeners when they think that, well, why... They will think that he has a point when he's talking about two-tier Britain, and this is not the first time he's made that criticism. But I think it has really split the political camps into those two wings, really.
Most definitely. Well, look, it's fascinating, and I cannot wait to read your coverage about it in the paper tomorrow, because I know it's wall-to-wall that. Poor old Churchill's been cancelled from the £5 note.
I know, I think this is ridiculous. Why do we want a frog rather than Churchill? I think it's...
He wasn't bad, was he? I mean, I know that he had, some arcane views because he was a 19th century aristocrat, but he did defeat Hitler, I seem to remember.
He did defeat Hitler. Also, look, the people you put on your banknotes might change up, but I think we should be confident enough to have people on our banknotes rather than just fluffy animals.
Well, isn't that the point? I know your viewers will have views on this. Research commissioned by the Bank of England concluded, Kate, that figures such as Churchill, Alan Turing and the famously far-right Jane Austen were contentious and not representative of the UK's cultural natural diversity. I mean, you know, framing someone like Churchill as divisive, that's going to upset your readers at The Sun, isn't it? It's an insult, really.
Well, it's an insult to him, but also, look, I mean, you can see how contorted the Bank of England is there, because they think every figure is divisive. You know, it's Churchill's divisive, Jane Austen's divisive. It's just, I mean, this is why people actually get so fed up with the so-called lanyard class, whatever. You should just be able to have the kind of confidence and a sense of history of your own country that you can stick a great wartime leader on your banknote, you can stick one of our great novelists on your banknote, and people don't start picking it apart. I think it's really ridiculous. I was a big critic of this when it was announced, and I'm still a very big critic of this.
Sharon has said, we do not need Churchill on the banknotes. Why can't we have a hard-working person that's helped and served the community on the banknotes? I think that's
everyman.
Not a bad idea, is it?
Well, but I mean, I think that the point is that you should be able to have people on your banknotes that represent something, be they represent, you know, the country at large or an exceptional achievement.
It's just such a horrible fudge putting a sparrow on there, isn't it?
I don't know, or frog. A fox.
Well, I know you've got to hop off now.
Nice.
And you're going to be like a fox in the hen house with those politicians.
Nicely done.
Feathers flying. Listen, it's brilliant to see you as always. My thanks to the political editor at The Sun on Sunday, Kate Ferguson. More to come next. It's your calls. Is the Vice President of the United States right that Britain is facing civilizational collapse? Don't go anywhere.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk. Is Britain facing civilizational collapse? Marie is in Milton Keynes, which is a beautiful new town in the southeast. Hello, Marie.
Good morning, Mark. I was just thought of a suggestion. Perhaps it's not suitable. You asked what we could put on the back of the new five.
Oh, yes.
I thought, how about Henry Novak?
Well, what a wonderful idea. That's a great idea, because in the United States, Marie, we had murals for George Floyd, didn't we?
Yes, we did indeed.
So I think that's a lovely idea. And why do you suggest Henry Novak for the banknote?
Well, he was such an innocent young man, and I think it's terrible any life to be taken away shortly. But that young boy did nothing, and I'm sorry, the police did nothing for him. You know, it was so heartbreaking. I cried when Patrick Christie showed it on his programme.
Marie, I love that creative idea. I think it's, I mean, I wouldn't say no to Henry on that note. This lovely lad, cut down in his prime, and a reminder to all of us about the values of this country. Marie, have a lovely Saturday. Thank you for that. I've got a full switchboard. We're going to go through every call in just a moment. I do want to tell you that the Makerfield by-election is happening, and here is the candidate list. Jake Austin, Liberal Democrats, Count Binface Party, Andy Burnham, Labour, Dan Clark, Libertarian, John Dyer, Independent, Ed Gemmell, Climate Party, Paul Gould, Independent, Howling Loud Hope, the official monster raving loony party, Robert Kenyon, Reform UK, Robert Pownall, Independent, Rebecca Shepherd, Restore Britain, Sarah Wakefield, Green Party, Peter Ward, Rejoin EU, Michael Winstanley, the Conservative Party. Those are your candidates. Grace is in London. Who should go on the banknotes, Grace?
Can I just say in passing, your guest earlier said that J.D. Vance is self-interested and obsessed with Christianity, and I think she's right that he is self-interested and he used Henry Novak's death to try and get points for the Trump administration. But Christianity itself is absolutely not about self-interest. It's about Jesus dying for us selflessly. And
it really is.
He asks us to be selfless in turn.
Christianity is about others, isn't it?
Well, it's about Jesus, and Jesus died for our sin. So he was ultimately self-sacrificial, and he told us to love others. You're right. So I was the way she put those two statements together as though
Fair play. I think you're right, and you should never use the idea of Christianity as a way of criticising someone. Grace, what about these banknotes? Does it matter who goes on them?
I don't know if it does all that much. Now, people have been talking about this as though it's some kind of conspiracy, and there's a Bible verse saying don't think that everything is a conspiracy, basically. I think that actually, I do remember quite well, last year, the BBC said on the Bank of England's website, you can give your feedback about what should be on our banknotes next. So I went onto the Bank of England website and I wrote my comments about what I thought should be on banknotes. And so it was actually a public consultation, and I guess that lots of people suggested animals because our country does really love animals.
Grace, briefly, if you can, who would you put on a banknote?
I don't know if there's a person.
What about Jesus?
Possibly, although he definitely wasn't British. I was thinking about how William Wilberforce, because of the teachings of Jesus, had fought against the slave trade, and the fact that he recognised the humanity of people who were really different and fought against the evil of slavery. That historical thing was something I thought could be remembered on our banknotes.
Grace, lovely call. Really good to have you. Have a good Saturday. We'll speak soon. Ray's in Birmingham, in England's second city. Morning, Ray.
Morning, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. Lovely to have you on the show. What are your thoughts about Andy Burnham? He wants to be Prime Minister, and he said that the pub tax and the farmers' tax are unfair.
Well, Andy Burnham is a very self-entitled to believe he can just walk into the constituency and take the seat of Macclesfield. The residents there did not ask for this election. He has, with certain help from the party, manipulated an opportunity to stand as MP in this particular area. The people in Makerfield are being taken for granted. The same people who just voted for reform and asked to vote for Burnham need to understand this election is not about them. He will not be able to operate as a normal local MP and represent them in his constituency. He will be resident in number 10. His only ambition, and it's always been his ambition and interest, is to become the Prime Minister. I do not believe that one local constituency they must not be allowed to determine the Prime Minister of this country. And as a Conservative on this occasion, I hope Reform win the ballot in the constituency.
Ray, wonderful call. I'm not sure you've called us before, so what a lovely treat to have you on. Let's speak again soon, Ray, in Birmingham. Pat's in Bournemouth. Morning, Pat.
Good morning, Mark. 2 days in a row, I feel.
Listen, I'm pinching myself.
I've just got a few comments. It's about a couple of things that you've been talking about this morning. To do with Elon Musk and J.D. Vance, a few years ago, Starmer was completely outraged and made comments to the US about George Floyd, which in my opinion was far worse than what these two have been saying. Also, the Labour Party was going to send a team to the US to rally against Trump in the run-up to the last presidential campaign. So if that's not going in on their politics, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And to do with the banknote and stuff, the removal of our history makes it easier to replace us. Why can't we feel anger when a young man of 17 is murdered, but you will feel the full face of the law for tweeting the wrong thing?
What did you make of the remarks of J.D. Vance, the Vice President? Some people said it was over the top.
I think he was completely true in what he said. I think the only problem what he did do was not make a pause and a change when he was on about
Novak's killer.
Not so much that. It was the bit about open borders and stuff. That was the wrong thing to say in the same sentence.
Yeah, but the detail may not have been right. Broad message, spot on.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly what you said. The underlying part of it is they love Britain. Their culture and their way of life is due to our representation of the law and our history. So I think you were dead right on that comment.
Oh, listen, Pat, thank you for that. Listen, make it 3 days in a row. Let's speak tomorrow. Pat, have a lovely Saturday, and thanks for your wise words. Danny's in London. Top of the morning, Danny.
Good morning, sir. I'd like to give some comments about knife crime. The government say, oh, it's got to stop, but they don't do anything about it. Why don't they make a law? Anybody, and I mean anybody, my son, your son, anybody get caught with a knife, 2 years inside. You get caught again with a knife, 3 or 4 years inside, and stop and search. No racist. They should make
Correct.
It. They should make.
We don't care what skin colour you are. We're patting you down, and we're looking in your bag.
You took the words out of my mouth. But he wouldn't dare say that, Starmer, would he? Because he's frightened of upsetting. You know, I was frightened of upsetting.
Well, I do. Danny, brilliant call. I wish I had longer. Thank you for that. Great contribution. Lynette is in London. Hello, Lynette.
Hello.
Thank you for calling, Lynette. I'm very glad that you have, because you've got a personal story.
Yes, I have. On Wednesday, I went on a peaceful march to Downing Street, and we stood with our hand on our heart for Henry. And while I was there, I got a phone call from my grandson who'd been stabbed in Southend with a screwdriver.
I cannot believe this. So you are honouring the memory of Henry Novak, who was stabbed to death in Downing Street. You get a call that your grandson's been stabbed in Essex, in Southend.
Yes.
First of all, how is he?
He's fine. Luckily, he was wearing a stab vest. He's a security guard.
I cannot believe this. And someone went at him with a screwdriver.
Yes. He was chasing a shoplifter, and he grabbed the bag off the shoplifter who'd stolen a load of jeans. And someone came behind him, must have been one of the shoplifter's friends, obviously, and stabbed him in the back with his screwdriver.
I'm truly horrified. Now, your grandson is in one piece. He must be very shaken up, is he?
He is very shaken up, and I'm very shaken up. I mean, my grandson's only 30.
Oh, darling, I'm so sorry.
And my great-granddaughter is in pieces. You know, she could have
Her daddy, because of her daddy. How old is she?
She's 7.
My goodness gracious.
And it's just disgusting what's happening in this country. I mean, I'm just frightened for all my family.
This is not normal, is it? This is not normal. This is not Britain that I recognise. I was born in 74, grew up in the 80s. I don't recognise this country, Lynette. I don't recognise that story you told me.
No, I was born in 54. I'm an old lady, and I have to go on these marches. I have to, because I want my grandchildren to know I tried to do something to change it. Nobody's listening. And as for your fiver, I think the perfect candidate is Keir Starmer. We should put him on there at the Traitors' Gate, with the Traitors' Gate in the background.
What
because
a brilliant
he is not for the English people.
That is such a good idea. Starmer at Traitors' Gate on the back of a fiver. That is such a good idea. Lynette, I want to send you my thoughts. Your lad, your brave lad, a security guard, grandson, I should say, your grandson, who is doing his job, very bravely apprehending a shoplifter, attempted stabbing with a screwdriver, and your great-granddaughter is so upset about her daddy, and I can understand why. Lynette, I'm glad you told us about this, because we've got to wake up to what's happening. It's not acceptable, and it's got to stop. This is Talk.
Father Calacane was a 32-year-old black man. He murdered 3 white people. Not once in any part of the conversation or reporting was there any racial profiling or even the question raised.
I don't want to drag this boy onto the issues, not onto Henry, and that is something that the family have asked for.
35 years I've been doing this. I've never seen a moment when most of mainstream media and most of mainstream politics was more out of touch with the country than over this issue. Quite extraordinary.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
9:50 Talk Breakfast. I want to thank you for the voice notes, for the texts, for the calls. I'm back tomorrow at 6 a.m. Thanks also to my amazing team, Ryan and the gang, for working so hard this morning. Live in the studio now, talking about talented people, Steve Denyer, the host of the Baby Breakfast on Virgin Radio, one of the biggest morning shows in the country. Good morning.
Always great to join you. Happy Saturday.
Well, listen, happy Saturday to you. You're tearing it up on the early breakfast, the Baby Breakfast, before Chris Evans on Virgin. Great numbers, big congratulations. And TFI Friday is going to come back.
We were back on last night. I love the fact that they made the decision on Thursday. This is how television works now. Apparently like 9 p.m, we're back on. So last night, 5 minutes past 11, TFI Friday Unplugged. This is the new guys of TFI Friday. I've got to tell you about some of the guests this week. Kiefer Sutherland on Monday. Then we had Claire Foy and Richard E. Grant together, because they're in a new movie that's come out. Then we had Shania Twain on Wednesday.
That don't impress me much.
Well, neither me. She was wonderful, actually. She kind of had to... I think she was very enormous.
That was very, very clever, wasn't it?
That was very good. Very good. You kind of threw me
I might have a lie down now. Okay. Because I don't think I can keep that level up, to be honest with you. Go on.
Well, Twain. In Spiral Carpets, Plain Life.
Oh, I can't think of a pun based on one of their songs.
This is How It Feels to Be Lonely, the new song. So it's all good. Okay. But it's all on our YouTube page. So if you missed it last night, you can watch it immediately. And it's bringing back kind of, you know, the great 90s vibes, the fun, the mayhem of TFI Friday. We just thought it'd be great for Virgin Radio to bring it back. And it's up on our YouTube page, which is Virgin Radio UK.
You guys are tearing it up. I've got to say that Virgin Radio, one of the really exciting brands in UK media today. Let's talk now about our special year, a mystery year. What happened in this mystery year?
So much about this year. I mean, in normal terms, I would start by telling you... Stop it. I would start by telling you about John Major, who resigned from the Conservative Party. Do you remember that big slogan? What was it? Put up or shut up. And
Back to basics as well.
Exactly. That went so well for them, didn't it? But we're not even going to go there, because the massive news event that sent shockwaves through the country, the world, the royal family, this happened in November this year. It was Princess Diana, Martin Bashir, the Panorama interview. Let's take a little look at it. Look at this.
We're going to come to that Panorama interview in just a moment, and it was fascinating because Diana said, there are 3 of us in this relationship, referring to her husband, Prince Charles at the time, and Camilla Parker Bowles. This was explosive. This was up there with the kind of Meghan and Harry Oprah interview, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
I'm delighted to say we've got the clip. Let's take a listen.
Your Royal Highness, how prepared were you for the pressures that came with marrying into the royal family?
At the age of 19, you always think you're prepared for everything, and you think you have the knowledge of what's coming ahead. But although I was daunted at the prospect at the time, I felt I had the support of my husband-to-be.
What were the expectations that you had for married life?
I think like any marriage, especially when you've had divorced parents like myself, you'd want to try even harder to make it work, and you don't want to fall back into a pattern that you've seen happen in your own family. I desperately wanted to work. I desperately loved my husband, and I wanted to share everything together. And I thought that we were a very good team.
I've always thought this, Steve, that Diana really did love Charles. That he didn't love her. Now, that's not a judgment on him, because we're all human beings, aren't we?
Yeah.
But Charles married her because he was in love with Camilla.
Yes.
But Diana was appropriate. She was a young aristocrat. She ticked all the boxes. She was the correct person to marry.
Yeah.
But she did love the guy.
Yeah, and you know, just to see, if you were watching this, the look on her face, she looks just so vulnerable and so devastated, doesn't she? I mean, it changed everything, this interview. We'd never seen anything so candid. And you're right about the Oprah interview of recent times. I suppose that was very similar. But this discussed really personal stuff, her bulimia, you know, the fact that there's three of them, her unhappiness and stuff. And she laid it all to bare. Of course, years later, we found out Martin Bashir's dealings with it and the bank statements. There's been lots of controversy.
He basically effectively misled her and tricked her into doing the interview based upon false information.
That's what we know now. So knowing that now, you go back and you feel even more sorry for her.
She was hoodwinked into doing it.
Really,
and if you look at it, it wasn't great for her, that interview.
No.
Because that's when she lost HRH and was cast aside by the royal family.
Literally within months, they announced that they were going to get divorced. The Queen said this has got to happen because it sent shockwaves, and the very name of the royal family has been dragged through the mud. So a massive, massive event. Can I swerve into the US events of this year? The biggest single watched event in American history was the verdict of O.J. Simpson. Take a look at this. This will take you back.
All right, Mr. Simpson, would you please stand and face the jury? Mrs. Robertson.
Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA097211. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information.
Oh, Steve.
There was a lot of stuff there. I mean, 150 million people watched that worldwide. That was almost as many people who saw the car chase. Do you remember?
The Bronco, the Ford Bronco, wasn't it?
That's right. That was the year before this. That apparently more pizza was ordered during that car chase in the US when that was going out live than any other event in US history. But he got off. And do you remember the event with the glove during the trial?
The glove fits.
The glove didn't fit, did it? And, you know, it was very controversial. I was at journalism school and we all just kind of watched that verdict as it happened back in this year. It was a real kind of, I mean, you know, it was absolutely the heightened tension for that moment.
I'm no Inspector Morse, but it seems like a strange verdict.
It did.
Not guilty. And this guy then goes on to live quite a charmed life, playing golf and having dinners at the country club.
Yes, yeah, it's something to be said.
And doing X videos.
Exactly. Having money and having the best people to represent you. Lots of people kind of cite that trial with the Michael Jackson trial later on. Can I take you back to August 1995? UK, OK? UK, two of the biggest bands fighting out. Look at this.
Two of Britain's most popular pop groups have begun the biggest chart war in 30 years. The Manchester band Oasis and their arch rivals Blur released new singles today, each hoping to reach the #1 spot next week.
Brilliant stuff.
Who won it, Blur or Oasis?
Well, for me, Oasis.
OK. But Blur got to #1.
Is that right?
They did, with the singles. However, Oasis cleaned up because more people bought the album, so they were both kind of winners. But we hadn't seen anything like this since the 60s. People were so excited. Finally, Toy Story 5, which I've seen, it's brilliant, is out next week. This was the year that the very first movie came out. It was the time that the world saw the very first kind of computer-animated... Do you want to see a tiny bit of it? Look at this.
Star Command, come in. Do you read me?
The story of two toys.
There seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Hello?
Booyah!
Headed for a showdown.
My name is Woody. This is my spot.
I am Buzz Lightyear.
Brilliant stuff. You sat down with Tim Allen, who's a fantastic entertainer, isn't he?
Really is. I mean, he was so funny, so funny. He gave a great interview. He was saying it took 4 years to make that film, 800,000 hours of machine kind of animations and stuff. The year was 1995. All happened back in that year, and a lot happened.
It was a great year, and let me tell you that Virgin Radio is the best. Not because of Chris Evans, not because of any number of people. It is Steve Denyer. You're such a star. We'll see you in a week's time.
Lovely stuff.
Check out TFI Friday on YouTube and Virgin Radio. The brilliant Peter Cardwell
Hello,
is here
sir.
today.
Steve Denyer, nicest man on showbiz, closely followed by Mark Dolan.
I try.
Can I just say on Blur, I